body of the Maybach lurched downward. The rear suspension let out a strained groan. Xiao glanced back to see at least 7 or 8 serpent-tailed dragon attendants climbing onto the roof and trunk. He raised his left hand, and a tentacle shot out from his tentacle gauntlet. It snared one serpent-tailed dragon attendant. Xiao thrust the trident of Poseidon forward, cleaving the foe apart mid-air. He repeated the maneuver, rapidly cutting down the dragon attendants. He barely managed to keep the Maybach intact. You have slain a serpent-tailed dragon attendant using the trident of Poseidon. EXP gained 25,000. You have slain a serpent-tailed dragon attendant using the trident of Poseidon. EXP gained 23,000. Kill notifications chime non-stop. Golden light beams burst forth time and again. Several minutes passed. A level up alert appeared. You have advanced to LV.29. All attributes +5. He drove forward another several hundred meters. You have advanced to LV.30. All attributes +5. The instant he leveled up, Xiao Lu equipped all the divine artifacts he had looted previously. Crimson End, Dragon Scale Armor, the Great Dragon Emperor's Sword. The defensive domain of the Dragon Scale Armor unfurled, countless fine scales enveloping the Maybach. No more dragon attendants could climb aboard. Any attackers hoping to break through would first have to pierce every single scale. A strong sense of safety washed over him. Meanwhile, the black dragon circling the Great Dragon Emperor's Sword exerted a suppressing aura over the dragon attendants. The pressure eased drastically. Xiao let out a quiet breath. The Maybach had nearly been totaled. He turned his attention to the newly dropped divine artifacts. Most were copies of dragon scale armor and the Great Dragon Emperor's Sword. Only 2 brand new divine artifacts existed, with an extremely low drop rate. He had obtained one of each. The first was a uniquely shaped bracelet of plain white. Its surface was covered in ultra-fine scales. The bracelet was molded in the form of the world serpent, swallowing its own tail to form a perfect closed loop. The serpent's scales gradually shrank from head to tail, growing tiny as dust at the tip. Name: Jormungandr. Type: Accessory Bracelet. Required level: LV.30. Available classes: Mage, Warlock. Quality: Divine Artifact Supreme. Attribute bonuses: Intelligence +2,200, Agility +800. Special effect: 3 states of mortal existence. Within a 40-meter radius, the wearer may designate one target and forcibly shift them into one of 3 temporal states: past, present, or future, lasting 5 minutes. At maximum power, the target can be regressed to their youth or advanced to old age. Special effect: Ecdysis of the past. While a target resides in the past state, the wearer may activate temporal ecdysis before the effect expires. All buffs, attributes, experience, and skills the target has acquired will be stripped away until the effect terminates. Special effect: End of the future. While a target resides in the future state, the wearer may activate temporal collapse before the effect expires. All damage, curses, and negative debuffs the target sustains will multiply and take effect on them. When they revert to the present, a burst reckoning triggers, inflicting permanent harm. If the target perishes within the terminal timeline, their moment of death will be fixed along the timeline and cannot be reversed by any resurrection skill or item. Cooldown: 12 hours. Description: Within the Nordic abyss, Jormungandr coils around Midgard. It divides past and future with its own body. It is both the terminator and sustainer of the world. The beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning. This is a support-type divine artifact. After reading the description, Xiao Li's eyes lit up. He put it on at once. A faint temporal aura rose all around him. It felt as if he could command all of creation. Most importantly, Jormungandr could be used not only against enemies, but also to aid allies. He looked down at the battered Maybach. He stretched out his right hand and gently clenched it. A miraculous sight unfolded. The wrecked Maybach began repairing rapidly. Peeling body panels reattached, glossy and smooth once more. The vehicle looked brand new. It ran with renewed vigor. The second supreme divine artifact was a ring, named Nibelungen. Forged from dragon bone platinum, it bore a deep dark gold hue tinged with murky copper red. Embedded on its front was a vertical spindle-shaped golden pupil. The golden pupil stared straight at the observer from every angle. Name: Nibelungen. Type: Accessory E-ring. Required level: LV.30. Available classes: Mage, Warlock, Bearers of Dragon Bloodline. Quality: Divine Artifact Supreme. Attribute bonuses: Intelligence +2,000, Constitution +500. Special effect: Rheingold. Within a 40-meter radius, the wearer may mark one target with the ring of Nibelungen. The target's desires are forcibly manifested as an illusory treasure hoard that lingers within their senses, endlessly tempting them. Each time the target attacks, casts a spell, or moves, they must pass a will check. A failed check traps them under the pull of greed. They cannot complete their intended action and are forced to move toward the treasure. If the target touches the treasure, the curse of Nibelungen activates immediately. It drags them into a special dimension inside the ring. The space holds endless wealth manifested from the target's own desires, yet every coin carries a curse of avarice. Trapped targets suffer dark damage equal to 150 of the wearer's intelligence every second and cannot be located or rescued by any outside means. Should the target die within the dimension, their corpse remains there forever, displayed as a trophy. The corpse is displayed as a trophy of longing within the ring's vault. The wearer may release captives at will or enter the dimension to inspect the collection. Note: the inner space forms a giant cube measuring 100 by 100 by 100 meters. Special effect: Chains of Greed. When at least 3 enemies are imprisoned inside the ring, the wearer may activate the Chains of Greed. Fueled by the captive's desires, a gate of Nibelungen manifests within a 50-meter radius. The gate manifests within a 50-meter radius in the physical world. For the 5 minutes the gate remains open, all hostile targets within range have their desires forcibly manifested, and will checks become twice as difficult. While the gate persists, a pull of greed targets enemies every second. Anyone who fails their will check is dragged directly into the ring's dimension. Cooldown: 1 hour. Special effect: Ragnarok. When 10 enemies are imprisoned within the ring's space. When 10 enemies are imprisoned within the ring's space, the wearer may activate Ragnarok. The massive cubic dimension within the ring descends into the physical world, covering a radius of 1,000 meters. For 60 seconds after descent, all enemies inside the area are afflicted by the curse of Nibelungen, taking damage equal to 300 of the wearer's intelligence each second. Every attempt to move, attack, or cast a spell requires a will check. Failure nullifies the action and pulls the target by greed. While the space persists, the wearer may teleport freely anywhere inside it. The corpses of all previously slain captives transform into cursed puppets that automatically assault all enemies in range. Cooldown: 3 hours. Description: Nibelungen is the birthplace of dragon bloodlines, a convergence point for the powers of the undead and dragons. Legend says any mortal who gazes at this ring for more than 10 seconds will be consumed by boundless avarice. The mortal turns into an eternally smiling golden statue stored within the vault. Desire is the gateway to the abyss, and the abyss is never satisfied. No wonder these 2 artifacts have such a low drop rate. 2 words: completely overpowered. Ciala slipped on the ring of Nibelungen immediately. A sensation of wielding the power of desire washed over him. These surrounding dragon attendants were all born from craving. On top of that, he now possessed a 100 by 100 by 100 meter 3-dimensional storage space. It solved his biggest headache. Now he had somewhere to stow his divine artifacts. He could hardly wait to test the lethality of this equipment. He would test it once he reached the endless battlefield. Meanwhile, the Maybach had been fully restored. Its engine roared powerfully amid the downpour. Ciala sat in the driver's seat, the Jormungandr bracelet on his wrist. With the Nibelungen ring upon his index finger, his whole bearing shifted instantly. Ahead, the viaduct finally broke free from the endless curtain of rain. Ciala could see the far end of the road stretching forward, an ever-expanding boundary line. Rainwater spread across the ground, seemingly drawing new sections of roadway into existence. One press of the gas pedal, and the Maybach could surge past this boundary, escaping the viaduct. Suddenly, an eerie roar echoed from the horde of dragon attendants. A steed dragon over 10 meters long leaped forth, tracing a perfect arc through the rain and landing directly in Ciala's path. The steed dragon bore metal like scales, white vapor billowing from its nostrils. The humanoid figure riding atop slowly lifted its head. It wore an aged bronze mask broken around the eye sockets, revealing blazing golden pupils. It stared down at Ciala from its lofty perch, then slowly raised a spear woven from twisted branches. It pointed the spear straight at the roaring Maybach. A harsh squeal echoed as all 4 wheels of the Maybach locked. The vehicle ground to a halt on its own, sliding forward until the front windshield stopped mere inches from the spear tip. The spearhead was aimed squarely at Ciala's forehead. Ciala's pupils narrowed. He sensed an inevitable fate bearing down upon him. Damn it! He glanced sideways and saw the far boundary of the viaduct receding. He had barely closed the distance, yet this boss had blocked his path ruthlessly. The next instant, he raised his left hand. The world's serpent swallowing its own tail on the bracelet twisted gently, as if its scales scraped against time itself. Into the future, the steed dragon neighed and stumbled backward. The masked humanoid lost its composure, clawing frantically at empty air as the bronze mask cracked with creaking noises. Jormungandr's serpent head clamped down on its tail. Fine scales glowed pale white. Raindrops froze mid-air, drifting downward at a lethargic pace. Xia Lu sat amid swirling temporal haze, resembling a god presiding over all existence. He watched the retreating boss with an impassive expression. The bronze mask shattered further, flakes peeling away to reveal dried skin beneath. The skin weathered apart under accelerated time before dissolving into dust without hitting the ground. Beneath the mask lay a human face, its distinct features etched with majesty and resolve. "You are." Xia Lu froze the moment he saw the face. He recognized this person. Back when he studied at Linhai City Professional Academy, his teacher had covered mandatory exam material on the first dragon invasion. One illustration depicted a man standing amid ruins, shield in his left hand and spear in his right. Behind him burned the skyline of Linhai City, and beneath his feet lay a dragon pierced through the throat. The caption read simply, "Hero of Linhai, Dragon Resistor." Now this figure stood as a boss on this viaduct. The boss was mounted on an 8-legged steed dragon. What exactly had happened all those years ago? Sadly, the warrior appeared to have forgotten his identity as a human. He steadied himself as he slid backward. The steed dragon reared its front hooves. The spear of twisted branches lunged toward Xia Lu once more. Its tip pierced floating raindrops, cutting through the present and future temporal currents woven by Jormungandr. It carried an air of inevitability, as if the strike could not miss. Xia Li's pupils contracted. He lifted his right index finger. The blazing vertical golden pupil set into the Nibelungen ring snapped open, golden particles inside the iris spinning at high speed. Nibelungen, Rheingold. The radiant golden eye flared to life, illuminating the space surrounding the steed dragon boss. This time, the aura did not manifest piles of coins, jewels, or endless treasure. Instead, the lingering desires buried deep within the warrior's heart took shape. Faintly, a burning skyline materialized. Skyscrapers of Linhai City rose like a mirage, symbols of human civilization now ravaged and broken. Terrifying dragons circled overhead, their wings blotting out the heavens as they rained dragon fire upon the city. Corpses littered the streets. Elders, children, women, and couples who had died embracing one another. It was the carnage left behind from the first dragon invasion. Yet this time, no hero rose to save humanity. The steed dragon boss's eyes trembled violently. His spear tip was aimed straight at a tear-streaked face within the vision. His arms bulged visibly as he wrenched the branch spear to a halt. A violent backlash tore through his body. Blood began spraying from his frame. 117-2389. Huge damage values floated above his head. Xia Lu raised an eyebrow. This was the power of Nibelungen. It unearthed the deepest fragments buried within an enemy's soul. Few could endure it. Emotions flickered across the boss's eyes. He stood facing the phantom Linhai conjured by Nibelungen, his golden pupils shaking as he beheld the scene. In the next moment, resolve flashed across his features. He twisted the spear around and aimed its tip at his own throat. Without hesitation, he drove it home. Puffed. The spear pierced clean through his neck from front to back. Blood jetted outward like a fountain. Xia Lu watched, stunned by the warrior's ferocity. 223-8239. Startled, the steed dragon reared and neighed. It threw its rider off and galloped toward the far end of the viaduct. The humanoid boss sank to his knees. He stretched out a trembling hand toward the hellish vision of Linhai. The instant his fingers reached for it, a notification appeared before Xia Lu. The Dragon Knight has triggered the curse of Nibelungen. Admit him to the vault? Xia Lu nodded and selected yes. This man was once a hero of humanity. He deserved a place here. If he regained his senses someday, Xia Lu would respect whatever choice he made, whether to stay or depart. Whoosh. The moment the dragon resistor made contact with Nibelungen, golden light erupted, swallowing his form entirely. Dragon Knight boss. Will check failed. Gate of Nibelungen activated. Successfully admitted to the vault 1/3. EXP gained, 1 million. You must complete a class advancement quest to continue leveling. Xia Lu had been elated, but this notice caught him off guard. How could he advance to a class without having one to begin with? He had never heard of such a requirement in Linhai City. Yet similar rumors circulated regarding the endless battlefield, a place holding far more possibilities than Linhai by millions of times over. I have no choice but to head to the endless battlefield and find answers. A blazing golden pillar of light shot upward. A spear drifted upward within the radiance, floating to rest before Xiaolu. Name, World Tree Spear. Type, Weapon. Required level, LV.35. Available classes, Warrior, Knight, Dragon Knight, and others. Quality, Divine Artifact Supreme. Attack Power, Infinite. Attribute bonuses, Strength plus 2,000, Constitution plus 2,000, Agility plus 2,000. Special effect, Spear of Certain Strike. After locking onto a target, the wielder may hurl the spear. Once released, the spear enters a causal state. Fate is sealed, and all else is mere formality. No matter how the target dodges, blocks, teleports, or activates invincibility, the spear will find a way to strike them. This effect ignores all defenses, evasion, and immunity. Usable only 3 times per day. Special effect, Spear of Certain Death. Upon impact, all resurrection, immunity to death, health lock, and near-death protection effects on the target are stripped away. An instant death check follows. If the target's remaining HP is below 50, the instant death check succeeds unconditionally. If the target's HP exceeds 50, the instant death check has a 50 success rate. On failure, the target instead suffers true damage equal to 1,200 of the wielder's strength. Description: this spear was carved from a single root of the World Tree. Within the Nordic Abyss, the World Tree connects the 9 realms, and each root bears the causal threads of countless lives. Legend says anyone who touches this branch will witness the complete timeline of their own fate. The branch is cause, blood is effect. Cause and effect cannot be emptied. Even gods may be slain. Infinite attack power. Xiaolu stared at the description in shock. This weapon was absurdly powerful. Even limited to 3 uses daily, it was wildly overpowered. Once he reached the endless battlefield, he could hurl this spear at whichever alien leader crossed his path. Unfortunately, he could not equip it until LV.35. First, he needed to finish his class advancement quest. Xiaolu then turned his gaze toward the surrounding dragon attendants, who shrank back in fear. The golden vertical pupil on Nibelungen lit up once more. He would eliminate every last one of these dragon attendants. The instant the Dragon Knight boss fell, thunderous rumbling echoed from the rear of the viaduct. Xiaolu twisted to look behind him. A white collapsing boundary raced forward at terrifying speed, far swifter than the viaduct's rate of expansion. It seemed the rainy viaduct would cease to exist now that its boss had perished. After silently calculating the time he had left, Xiaolu nodded. It would be enough. He lifted his right index finger. The golden pupil of Nibelungen blazed with radiant golden light. The domain of Rhine unfolds before the dragon attendants. They had been slowly retreating, yet upon witnessing the illusions within, they froze in their tracks. Greed glinted in their eyes, and they ached to surge forward. They desired to indulge their desires without delay. There loomed mountains forged entirely of gold, vast enough for them to swim within. Beyond them lay paths leading toward thriving metropolises, avenues of survival. Every sight held a fatal allure. For the dragon attendants, they shifted their claws, eyes blazing with avarice. At last, they lost all restraint, letting out shrill cries as they charged ahead. One after another, they rushed into the domain of Rhine. They dissolved into ripples of golden light. These creatures possessed simple minds, little different from wild beasts. They held no value as collectibles. Xiaolu saw no reason to spare them. Number of enemies trapped within spatial confinement exceeds 10. Activate Ragnarok. Yes. The next instant, a deafening hum reverberated. The rain-soaked curtain of night was torn open. It was the projection of another world. Heavens crumbled. Oceans surged backward. Gods drifted powerlessly, their gazes hollow and unfocused. The dragon attendants lifted their heads in stunned disbelief. Immediately, an indescribable weight pressed down upon their forms. Crack, creak, bones splintered, then ground into fine dust. Even a single drop of power from Ragnarok was far beyond what they could endure. 600,000,600,000. Strings of damage values floated above their heads. Their health bars drained in the blink of an eye. They collapsed to the ground and perished amid agonized wails. You have slain serpent-tailed dragon attendant LV.37 using Ragnarok. Experience gained, 25,000. You have slain serpent-tailed dragon attendant LV.35 using Ragnarok. Experience gained, 23,000. Kill notifications streamed endlessly across his vision. Yet Xiaolu remained stuck at first-class promotion. He could not level up further. All accumulated experience would have to wait until he completed his first promotion on the endless battlefield. Moments later, countless golden beams shot upward from the corpses of the dragon attendants. Dozens of top-tier divine weapons slowly ascended into view. Nearly all were dragon-scale armor and Dragon Emperor Greatsword. These two divine artifacts were extremely common drops. He saw no sign of Nibelung or Jormungandr. The drop rate was woefully low. The World Tree Spear was an even rarer treasure. Xiaolu stored all the divine artifacts inside Nibelung's treasure vault, saving them for worthy successors in the future. Just then, the torrential downpour thinned to a light drizzle. Xiaolu poked his head out the car window and looked up. The rain was ending. The elevated highway stretched empty ahead. This dungeon will vanish soon. It is time to head for the endless battlefield. Xiaolu returned to the vehicle and slammed his foot onto the accelerator. He would not get the chance to drive this car once he arrived at the battlefield. He might as well enjoy it to the fullest now. At a 5-star hotel in Linhai City, Lin Zhenghong rose from the head seat, holding a glass of champagne. Everyone, the Black Tiger Guild has been nearly eliminated. Sun Dushing is locked within the anti-magic cell. All the guild's stockpiled equipment, materials, dungeon entry tokens, plus the equipment shops in the West District will fall under our control. As for Sun Hao, the S-class Blazing Sun Sword Sage, without his grandfather's backing, the young man has learned caution. He may prove useful to us in the days ahead. In merely a few days, we have removed Linhai City's greatest threat, recruited an S-class professional, and seized all assets belonging to the Black Tiger Guild. None of this would be possible without all of your efforts. The city officials seated at the table raised their glasses, bright smiles spreading across their faces. Glasses clinked together sharply. After sipping the champagne, Lin Zhenghong wiped the corners of his mouth with a napkin and casually asked, "By the way, what is Xiaolu doing at the moment?" His secretary stepped forward and lowered his voice. "Mayor Lin, according to records from the dungeon administration system, Xiaolu entered the rainy elevated highway dungeon last night." Lin Zhenghong paused, then let out a cold laugh. Overestimating himself. Does he think clearing the new recruit assessment qualifies him to solo a high-tier dungeon? Mayor Lin, the secretary's voice turned dry. System logs confirm Xiaolu cleared the rainy elevated highway dungeon at 4 o'clock this morning. The dungeon entrance collapsed upon completion and can no longer be accessed. Lin Zhenghong's expression froze on the spot. The others gasped in shock. The rainy elevated highway was widely regarded as Linhai City's most difficult dungeon. Without thorough preparation, anyone who entered would face certain death. Luck. It must have been sheer luck. Lin Zhenghong shook his head. He must have found some cheap trick. Today is the day he is summoned to the endless battlefield. Are all arrangements finalized with the front lines? Everything is set. The secretary flipped to the next page on his tablet. Yongye City has confirmed receipt. His file has been entered into the system. Upon arrival, Xiaolu will be assigned to the 3rd Mobile Corps under Commander Sunday. The Corps' current mission involves clearing the outskirts of the insect hive. The mission has a casualty rate exceeding 60%. Following your instructions, he has been placed in the first wave of assault troops. Lin Zhenghong nodded faintly. The atmosphere at the banquet lightened once more. A wealthy merchant lifted his glass. Mayor Lin's schemes never fail. That boy will learn the cruelty of true war once he reaches the front lines. If nothing unexpected happens, his aunt is likely already dead. The insect swarms have grown increasingly ferocious these days. Southwest of the Yongye City outpost on the endless battlefield, the sky appeared tainted, shrouded in an eerie purple haze that never faded. The air reeked of a sour blend of insect secretions and human blood. Lu Xiyu finally reached her limit. She dropped to one knee amid piles of insect carcasses, driving her golden-spiked staff into the ground before her. She gripped the staff tightly to keep herself from collapsing fully. A horrific gash split the shoulder plate of her armor. Her robe battlesuit was torn and bent out of shape. Blood streamed down her forehead, covering one eye. She scanned her surroundings warily with the other eye. Corpses of 3-meter-long soldier insects littered the ground. She silently tallied the battle. She had crushed the skulls of at least 30 insects in this engagement. Her golden-spiked staff was nearly worn smooth. Still, the armor set served her well. She would have perished in the first assault without it. Xiaolu steered the Maybach racing out from the elevated highway. Familiar sunlight spilled across his face, lifting his spirits. Congratulations. You have cleared Linhai City Special Dungeon, a rainy elevated highway title reward acquired. Unstoppable. Unstoppable. Embrace mortality, keep moving forward. While equipped, the wearer and all allied units within a 10-meter radius gain the unstoppable buff. During retreats, breakthroughs, or pursuits, movement speed rises by 40%. Furthermore, stamina consumption is halved, and terrain-based slow effects are ignored. Additionally, the wearer may summon a brand new Maybach S-Class as a temporary mount while in combat. The mount ignores terrain restrictions and bears a shield equivalent to 50% of the wearer's maximum health, lasting until combat ends. Summon available once per day. I can summon a Maybach S-Class every single day? Xia Li's eyes lit up. Though the vehicle lacked formidable defensive power, it possessed astonishing speed, perfect for long-distance travel. Few professionals or bosses could hope to catch up on foot. Best of all, it cost nothing to summon. This was excellent news. Xia Li drove the Maybach fully out of the elevated highway zone. The central control panel vibrated repeatedly, popping up system prompts. You have entered Linhai City Service Zone summoned to the endless battlefield commencing countdown. 6 hours, 27 minutes, 18 seconds. Xia Li glanced at the timer and smiled. Clearly, certain people could hardly wait. He still had 6 hours remaining. He could not afford to sit idle. It was time to set the pieces of his plan into motion. After checking the navigation map, he twisted the steering wheel all the way left. The Maybach headed east toward the city's eastern district. At the same time, at the Goblin Dungeon Teleportation Plaza, Sun Hao limped out, supporting himself on a greatsword. His level had climbed to LV.8. He no longer carried the arrogant demeanor he once possessed, far more reserved than before. The sycophants who once surrounded him were gone. Every so often, a gloomy glint flickered across his eyes. He sat alone on a stone pedestal beside the dungeon entrance, pulled beef jerky from his backpack and took a few bites, then twisted open a water canteen to gulp cold water. It seemed he planned to grind levels relentlessly in the days ahead. Passing wandering professionals kept their distance as they walked past. The once celebrated S-Class genius appeared deeply troubled, and no one dared provoke him. Xia Li sat inside the Maybach parked along the street, watching the young man eating jerky. Sun Hao seemed more mature, yet infinitely more dangerous. His phone vibrated twice. He picked it up and saw a message. Head Teacher Su Yan, urgent notice. Per new orders from the Great Siam military, all students who have reached LV.20 will soon be forcibly summoned to serve on the endless battlefield to defend humanity's front lines. The endless battlefield is split into multiple war zones. New recruits between LV.20 and LV.30 will be assigned to relatively safe patrol and logistics sectors. Survival rates remain acceptable as long as they avoid high-level combat zones. All students please prepare accordingly. Reply upon reading. Silence hung over the chat for a long moment. Then messages poured in one after another. Received. But teacher, do we really have to go to the endless battlefield? I only just reached LV.18. Can we delay it a little longer? Why panic? You haven't hit LV.20 yet. Worry about it when you get there. I don't want to go. My brother told me people die daily. On the endless battlefield, even second-class professionals are not guaranteed to return alive. You can avoid conscription if you never level past LV.20. That would ruin all prospects. You can't enter higher-tier dungeons. How will you ever advance your class if you are stuck below LV.20? What matters more, a future or your life? Life matters, yet what kind of existence is a life without prospects? Xia Li skimmed the messages and sighed. The front lines must be facing severe pressure if students were being conscripted. Sun Hao, received. It looked as though he would cross paths with this young man again on the battlefield. With that thought, Xia Li retrieved the Wraith Crystal Orb. Twisting dark, purple smoke swirled within the sphere. He glanced toward Sun Hao and uttered a low, strange chant from the back of his throat. The dark purple smoke began to move in ordered patterns, gradually forming an image of Sun Hao leaning against the stone pedestal. A wraith seed descended, akin to a curse. Sun Hao frowned and scratched his back. Within the smoke vision inside the crystal orb, a slowly pulsing seed mark appeared at the base of his spine. Unlike the wraith seed planted inside the ogre earlier, this seed did not immediately take root. It shrank into a tiny dormant mass, nearly impossible to detect even with detection skills. Wraith seed planted. Target, Sun Hao mode. Dormant status. Inactive. A faint mental link formed in Xia Li's mind. No matter where Sun Hao traveled, Xia Li could remotely observe him through the Wraith Crystal Orb. He held the young man's life firmly in his grasp. No matter how fiercely Sun Hao trained to grow stronger, he would remain under Xia Li's control. This marked the first pawn on his board. Xia Li watched until Sun Hao vanished from sight, then started the engine. The Maybach turned and headed north. Xia Li returned home. Seeing all the familiar surroundings stirred quiet emotion. He wondered when he might return once he left this time. I truly wonder how my aunt is faring on the endless battlefield. With the goblin divine armor set, she should be able to stay alive, right? Xiaolu furrowed his brow with worry. The goblin divine armor set was somewhat underpowered. If she possessed the merman armor set, he would have absolute confidence in her safety. He checked the countdown timer. 2 hours, 12 minutes, and 33 seconds. He would eat well and prepare before departing. Xiaolu ordered braised pork ribs, beef stew with potatoes, spicy stir-fried prawns, paired with iced cola. After enjoying a hearty meal, little time remained. He washed the dishes and set them on the drying rack. He turned off every light in the house, leaving only the voice-activated lamp in the living room lit. He sat upon the sofa, closing his eyes and waiting for the moment of summoning. Countdown. 3 seconds countdown. 2 seconds countdown. 1 second teleportation to the endless battlefield, initiating whoosh. Circles of light ignited beneath his feet and wrapped around his body. Dizziness crashed over him. The world spun wildly. The sensation felt more tangible and prolonged than teleporting into any dungeon. After an unknown stretch of time, the chaos faded. A thick stench of blood washed over him. Xiaolu opened his eyes. He saw a sky dyed dark purple. There was no sun, no moon. A massive rift split the horizon in the distance. Dark, red magical radiation seeped continuously from the fissure's edges, dripping downward like liquid. The endless battlefield existed in a perpetual twilight, its sole source of light the glowing cracks stretching across the heavens. He turned to examine his surroundings. Corpses of alien insects littered the ground. Each insect stood at minimum 3 meters tall. He even spotted the carcass of a 3-story giant worm slumped not far away, its central nervous system destroyed, chitin spikes jutting skyward. The air reeked strongly of insect rot. It appeared a brutal defensive battle had only recently concluded. In the distance, figures moved among the insect remains. They belonged to Yongye City's battlefield cleanup crews. The crews were clad in heavy protective cloaks. They hooked insect carcasses onto carts with long iron poles, hauling the bodies toward incineration pits for mass disposal. LV.53, LV.51, LV.55. Every single one possessed a high level. The cleanup crews alone are this powerful. If my aunt is only LV.23, she is severely outmatched here. Xiaoli's gaze darkened. Still, he retained faith in the goblin divine armor set. It ought to keep her alive. Just then, multiple teleportation rings lit up behind him, spawning new arrivals. Some stumbled out and collapsed to retch. Others lifted their heads to stare blankly at the enormous fissure spanning the sky. Beyond the piles of insect remains, Yongye City loomed silently within the shadows. Its walls were forged from an unknown material, rising 75 meters high and stretching as far as the eye could see. From afar, it resembled a giant black beast lying low upon the ground. Powerful white searchlights swept continuously across its outer perimeter, leaving almost no blind spots. The city gate stood parted. The gate was wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side. Several garrison officers stood on either side, verifying each new recruit's identity tags as they queued in a long line. Xiaolu walked toward the gate and handed over his student identification. The garrison officer took the ID and stared in surprise. He lifted his eyes to examine Xiaolu from head to toe. A student. His voice carried disbelief. LV.30? No class selected. That is correct, Xiaolu nodded. TSK. I have never met anyone who reached this level without choosing a class. I do not know how you raised your levels, but know your limits. Otherwise, you will die. The officer returned the student ID, stressing the warning heavily. He evidently assumed Xiaolu was a wealthy youth who paid others to grind levels for him. Understood. Xiaolu saw no need to explain. He tucked away his ID and prepared to walk into the city. Wait a moment, I haven't finished speaking. The officer stretched out an arm to block his path, slamming a document before him. There are only 2 ways to survive inside Yongye City. First, enlist in the regular army. Lodging and meals are fully covered. The military uniformly distributes equipment, skills, and potions. Monthly pay starts at no less than 300,000, complete with comprehensive benefits. If you perish on the front lines, pension funds will be transferred directly to your family. Regular promotions occur periodically. Higher rank brings superior treatment. Should you fall in combat, the military will transport your remains. They will bring you back to your hometown for burial with full hero honors. Bear in mind one critical rule. You must obey all orders without exception. Severe punishments await anyone who disobeys commands. After finishing, the officer glanced at Xiaolu and shook his head. Given your lack of a combat class, acceptance into the regular army will prove difficult. unless you have someone influential to vouch for you. Xiaolu immediately thought of Mayor Lin Zhenghong. If he spoke that name, entry would be guaranteed. Yet he still shook his head. Seeing this, the gate officer went on speaking. The second path is to become a freelancer. You answer to no one. You may go wherever you wish. Freelancers usually trail behind regular troops to pick off straggling alien foes and earn contribution points. But freelancers receive no official benefits whatsoever. Skills, gear, items, you must source all of them on your own. There is no salary, no insurance. Contribution points are your sole means of gain. Any freelancer wishing to reside within Eternal Night City must pay 10,000 daxia coins each day. Now make your choice. He pushed a blank registration form towards Xiaolu. Xiaolu gripped the pen, not rushing to sign. Instead, he lifted his gaze to the officer. How do freelancers track military movements? What if the regular army marches out, and we're still sitting in the city eating rations? The officer chuckled at his question. You've got a quick mind, kid. Large-scale military deployments are publicly announced. The massive bulletin screen at Central Square in Eternal Night City posts daily battle plans and alien threat alerts every morning. If you want to follow the main force to hunt stragglers, keep an eye on that screen. Classified operations, special commando raids, decapitation strikes, overall battle strategies will never be posted. Don't get your hopes up for intel on those. Any more questions? Xiaolu wore a serious expression. I'm newly arrived, sir. Forgive me for asking so many things. The officer waved his hand. Ask away. Manning this gate, I mostly watch rookies fall apart. It's refreshing to talk to someone who stays calm. Are there any publicly announced large-scale operations coming up? The officer thought for a moment and nodded. There is. The alien horde assaulted Eternal Night City a few days ago. You saw all the wreckage outside the walls when you arrived. That's leftover from that defensive battle. In retaliation, the city lord issued a counterattack order yesterday. The main legions stationed here are already assembling. The exact departure time and battle zone allocations will be posted on tomorrow's bulletin. If you plan to trail the army for spoils, head to Central Square early tomorrow morning. As Xiaolu filled out the form, pen in hand, he asked, will this counterattack have more rookies or veterans? The officer pondered. Mostly rookies. The horde's recent assault was repelled by the defensive runes on the city walls. Their main forces retreated deep into their nest. So the higher-ups set simple objectives for the first phase of the counterattack. Rookies will carry forbidden spell stones to designated coordinates, detonate them, and destroy the hatching grounds and fungus mats surrounding the outer nest zones. He paused, then added, this mission doesn't require large pitched battles. It all boils down to moving fast and avoiding being surrounded by swarms. It's perfect combat practice for new recruits. Veteran regular troops will hold the rear, ready to intervene if emergencies arise. Once the detonations go off, you freelancers can follow in to mop up survivors. It's the easiest work available. Xiaolu narrowed his eyes slightly. It was highly likely his aunt would take part in this campaign. If he went there, he might run into her. Xiaolu nodded, ticked the freelancer box on the form, and slid it back to the officer. The officer glanced over the paper, pulled a magnetic card from his drawer, swiped it on a terminal, and handed it to Xiaolu. Your Eternal Night City freelancer ID. Keep it safe. You must swipe this card to enter and exit the city gates. A replacement costs 5,000 coins if you lose it. Xiaolu tucked the freelancer ID into his pocket and walked through the 10-meter-thick city gate. He officially stepped into Eternal Night City. The scene inside was nothing like what he had imagined. There were barely any commercial districts to speak of. The streets were drab gray, lined with military compounds fenced off by iron railings. Freelancers such as himself were forbidden from entering these zones. Armored vehicles rumbled past occasionally. Barracks, mess halls, training yards all lay within the compounds. A quick sweep told Xiaolu that well over 100,000 awakened warriors were stationed here. These people formed the core defensive force of Eternal Night City. The districts open to freelancers were far shabbier. They consisted mostly of makeshift tents and containers converted into housing. At the end of the main street stood a trading hub, where freelancers set up stalls, ran taverns, repaired equipment, and conducted small-scale trade. Many off-duty regular soldiers also came here, seeking goods and services they could not obtain within military zones. Xiaolu wandered around, gaining a clear picture of Eternal Night City's layout. This was a fortress run under strict martial law. Freelancers could scrape by on leftover gains from major military campaigns. Only a system like this could sustain the city against constant alien sieges. He followed the main road forward and soon reached Eternal Night City's Central Square. The giant bulletin screen at the square's center rolled previews of upcoming battle plans. Several freelancers stood staring upward, whispering about the counterattack. This counterattack doesn't sound like it'll offer much reward. Ugh, it's risky to get mixed up in this. One wrong move, and you lose your life. The battlefield situation has grown harder and harder to follow lately. Xiaolu stood nearby and listened to their conversation. None of the chatter yielded useful information. The boundless battlefield was a place of endless shifting conflicts. Low-ranking fighters like them could only guess at what lay ahead. One fact remained certain. The counteroffensive had already begun, which meant his aunt was likely already out there. He needed to find a way to contact her. Eternal Night City must have functional communication systems. Shortly afterward, Xia Lu found the communications office within the administrative district. A young clerk sat behind the window, rapidly tapping at a keyboard. Xia Lu leaned toward the window. "Officer, could you help me locate someone's contact channel?" Lu Shiyu. She was transferred here from Linhai City 3 days ago. She should be assigned to the regular army. The clerk looked up and typed quickly on his keyboard. He scanned the screen and nodded. Lu Shiyu, transfer from Linhai City, assigned to the 3rd Mobile Unit 3 days prior. I can patch you through to her channel, but a connection isn't guaranteed. Alien insect magnetic fields frequently disrupt frontline communications. He slid a military communicator across the windowsill and pressed a series of buttons. Static crackled loudly from the device, followed by faint crashing sounds and screeches. Then the screen flared to life. The footage shook violently, as though the person on the other end was running or locked in close combat. The background showed rocky terrain stained crimson by magical radiation, with the wreckage of insect soldiers scattered on the ground in the distance. Lu Shiyu's hoarse, urgent voice echoed from off-camera. "Left flank. Zhaoyong, hold the left flank. Zhang Cheng's down. Hold that position." Xiaolu stared, stunned. He had never imagined his gentle aunt could be so battle-hardened and decisive. Huh? An incoming transmission. It's... Lu Shiyu spotted Xia Lu on the screen. Her eyes widened in shock. "Xiaolu, what? You've come to the boundless battlefield." Her voice shook with alarm. "You shouldn't be here. The insects set a trap. The ground is swarming with bugs underneath. Damn it, there's a traitor within Eternal Night City. Stay far away. Do you hear?" The feed cut out abruptly mid-sentence. 3 seconds later, cold text appeared on the screen. Communication terminated. Silence fell over the communications office. The young clerk looked at Xia Lu awkwardly. "Magical interference on the front lines is persistent. You can try again later if you want." "It's fine." Xia Lu set the communicator back on the windowsill. The situation looked grim. Though he possessed numerous legendary artifacts, his level was stuck at LV.30. In the boundless battlefield, foes commonly started at LV.50. Even LV.100 enemies roamed these lands. His level granted him very little passive combat enhancement. Only by raising his level could he break through the chains binding his power. First, he needed to complete his class advancement. "Where do I register for rookie class advancement quests?" The clerk glanced up, handing over a magnetic card and a form through the window. "Head to the Academic Affairs office on the 2nd floor. Turn left after entering, take the stairs. The iron door at the end of the hallway is the office. Fill out this form. The card activates the elevator to the upper floor." Xia Lu accepted the documents and thanked him. The form required basic information: name, level, current class, desired advancement path. He climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor and pushed open the iron door at the end of the corridor. Inside stood a modest office. On the wall hung a detailed map of the territories surrounding Eternal Night City, marked with red and blue lines. A gray-haired middle-aged instructor sat behind the desk, writing on documents. He gestured toward an empty chair when Xia Lu entered. "Set the form on the desk." "Understood." Xia Lu laid the form down. Once the instructor finished his writing, he picked up the form and read it. He stared at Xia Lu in surprise. "You failed your first class advancement." "I did. How did you reach LV.30 then?" "That's a complicated story." Xia Lu quickly asked. "Am I still eligible to advance?" "Theoretically, any awakened warrior can undergo class advancement once they reach the required level. But," the instructor set the form aside and rubbed his face. "I can issue you the advancement quest, but you need to understand the rules. Advancement quests cannot be completed with allies. No teammates, no outside assistance. Violations result in failed advancement, and in the worst cases, permanent loss of eligibility. You are currently classless, with no class skills or passive attribute bonuses. Are you certain you want to hunt a LV.30 elite monster completely alone?" "I'm certain." Xia Lu nodded. The instructor studied him for 2 seconds, then pulled a quest document from his drawer and pushed it forward. "North of Eternal Night City. Coordinates 3782. Cyclops Giant. Kill it by yourself and bring back its single eye as quest material. Complete that, and your advancement will be approved. Xiaolu took the document, and a system prompt popped up before his eyes. LV. 30 Class Advancement Quest. Solo slay the Cyclops Giant and retrieve its precious material, the Giant Eye. Accept quest? Yes. The quest document dissolved the moment he confirmed. Thank you, instructor. Xiaolu turned toward the door. He had only taken a few steps when the instructor's voice called out behind him. The Cyclops Giant is a solitary alien. That means it won't attack in swarms like the insect hordes. But solitary monsters are far stronger individually than pack creatures of equal level. Swarm aliens rely on numbers. Solitary aliens rely on overwhelming personal combat power. That is a lesson written in the blood of countless warriors across the boundless battlefield. And watch your back out in the wilderness. Monsters are rarely the greatest threat. More often than not, danger comes from other humans. Xiaolu exited the administrative district with a positive impression of the people in Eternal Night City. Everyone he had met had offered genuine assistance. No one had refused service merely because he had failed his first advancement. It warmed his heart. Perhaps a partnership with Eternal Night City could be arranged someday. He could supply a steady stream of legendary artifacts. Still, the mention of a traitor from his aunt weighed heavily on his mind. He would observe developments carefully first. If his secret was exposed, the consequences would be fatal. Xiaolu crossed the main street and headed north. Freelancers dressed in all manner of mismatched gear wandered the roads, paying him no mind. He slowed his pace intentionally, waiting to see if anyone connected to the traitor would approach him. If they did, he would eliminate them all after finishing his advancement quest. As he passed a shantytown area, a low voice called out from behind him. Hey, you there, traveling alone? Xiaolu turned to see a middle-aged man poking his head out of a metal shack. He wore a warm smile and waved Xiaolu over. You're a new freelancer, right? A patrol of insect monsters just passed through. It's too dangerous to head out on your own. Why not wait and travel with our group? We can watch each other's backs. No thanks. I can handle myself. Xiaolu paused briefly and smiles at the man. Is that so? Stay safe out there. The man muttered under his breath and watched Xiaolu walk away. The friendly warmth vanished from his face instantly, replaced by cold suspicion. He retreated into the shack, pressing 2 fingers to the earpiece in his ear. His lips barely moved as he spoke in an almost inaudible whisper. The target has left. Yes, alone. Looks like he's heading outside the city. Northbound, likely toward the Cyclops Giant hunting grounds. We can move now. Xiaolu continued walking casually along the street. He glanced slightly to one side. Have they taken the bait? He could not be sure, so he kept his pace slow. If he walked too fast, they might lose track of him. Still, the unknown watchers acted cautiously and did not follow immediately. He reached the North City gate, presented his freelancer ID, and passed through without trouble. The land outside the northern gate was a charred buffer zone contested repeatedly in battles. A thick stench of rot washed over him, making Xiaolu squint. Suddenly, a shrill scream echoed in the distance. Ah, my legs. Both my legs are gone. Xiaolu turned his head. A freelancer was being dragged back by 2 companions. Both legs had been severed cleanly below the knees. The sight was horrific. The other survivors accompanying him were scarcely better off, all bearing wounds of varying severity. Xiaolu's expression darkened, and he pressed onward toward the Cyclops Giant's territory. Whoa, he's going alone, North? A freelancer repairing weapons by the roadside lifted his head, staring in shock at Xiaolu's retreating figure. He looked so young, barely more than a student. How can he dare venture outside the city alone, straight towards Cyclops territory? He probably thinks the boundless battlefield is like the training simulations back in school, where you can respawn after dying. Training simulations? Huh, that's nothing but child's play compared to this. Don't get me started. At least 300 freelancers die out here every single day. He'll just be another number on that tally. After exiting the city, Xiaolu trekked across charred wasteland for some distance. The ground gradually shifted to exposed bedrock, smooth and flat, like paved roads. A thought struck him. This is perfect terrain for the Maybach. He glanced left and right. No other people were nearby. He raised his right hand and snapped his fingers. The title Unceasing Wanderer blazed to life. A deep engine roar erupted from a rift in the void behind him. A brand new obsidian black Maybach S-Class surged out of the dimensional fissure. Its tires slammed onto the bedrock, and the vehicle drifted neatly to a stop directly before Xiaolu. The onboard magical core activated automatically, deploying a repulsion barrier 3 meters outward from the vehicle frame. Xiaolu opened the door and slid into the driver's seat. He gripped the steering wheel firmly and slammed down on the accelerator. The Maybach roared forward, speeding toward his destination. Travel efficiency increased hundreds of times over. and the barrier shielded him from sudden ambushes. After traveling roughly a dozen kilometers, the solid bedrock gave way to broken stone terrain. Massive boulders dotted the landscape. A Cyclops giant over 10 meters tall lay sprawled atop one giant rock, snoring thunderously. The Maybach's engine roar easily drowned out its snoring. The giant's breathing hitched, and its single massive eye flew open. Its huge pupil rotated, locking onto the black metal machine speeding toward it. Name: Cyclops Giant. Level: LV. 35 Elite. HP: 650,000. Damage: 6,812,600. Skills: Petrifying Gaze, Brutal Hurl, Stone Skin, War Stomp, Berserk Rage. Description: Cyclops giants, solitary predators that roam the rocky wastelands of the boundless battlefield. The single eye centered on their forehead is their deadliest weapon. The eyeball holds cursed earth elemental essence within. Its petrifying ray can turn the outer layers of all living organisms into brittle limestone within seconds, allowing it to overwhelm other elite monsters of equal level. It pushed itself upright, leaning forward, balling its enormous fist, and smashing it down toward the Maybach. Human. Dragon Scale Armor. Activate. Fine golden dragon scale phantoms wove together to form a defensive barrier, enveloping the entire vehicle. The half-human-sized fist crashed down. The dragon scales caved inward slightly to absorb the impact. Then nothing more happened. The blow could not even reach the roof of the Maybach. What? How is this possible? Merely a metal shell. The Cyclops giant shouted in disbelief, its understanding of the world shaken. The Maybach door swung open. Xiala stood up from the driver's seat. The faceplate of his deep-sea helmet slid down, covering his features completely. Scarlet and hung at his back, stirring without wind. He tilted his head upward, tiny blue data streams flickering across the helmet visor. Perception waves from the deep-sea sonar spread outward. Every living creature within a 200-meter radius appeared as glowing markers projected inside his visor. The Cyclops giant's heartbeat glowed as a massive dark red blob, less than 10 meters directly ahead of him. Between the massive surrounding rock formations lurked 5 smaller, yet distinct dark red light spots. They were moving slowly. 3 words flickered on the inner surface of his face mask. Professionals. Just as I thought. Xia Li's gaze turned solemn. He had been wondering why these people had failed to give chase. It turned out they had known his plan in advance. They had lain in wait at the mission site. What should he do now? He turned toward the 5 professionals, then slowly lifted the index finger of his right hand. His golden vertical pupils blazed with brilliant radiance. Nibelung. Realm of the Rhine. Space twisted, conjuring illusions. It awakened the deepest buried desires within every living being present. To Xia Li's surprise, the Cyclops knew exactly what he was seeing. The moment Nibelung lit up, terror flooded its features. This is an ancient divine artifact. How did it come into your possession? Outside the northern city gate, within the shadow of an iron sheet shack, a middle-aged man closely tracked Xia Li's movements. His voice transmitted outward via a miniature communicator. Static crackled across the encrypted channel, echoing in the earpieces of all 5 targets simultaneously. Target has exited through the north gate, moving alone toward the Cyclops hunting grounds. Wait, he's summoned a vehicle, a luxury sedan, a Maybach S-Class. Where did this kid get so much wealth? Strike team, respond. Received. This boy certainly knows how to indulge himself. I've never even ridden in a Maybach. He doesn't possess a class yet he's attempting his job advancement quest. Ridiculous. This embodies humanity's fundamental flaw. Wealth and resources are hoarded by privileged clans, who exploit others to seize meager power. At this rate, we will never prevail against the other races. I agree. Likewise, the great Xia shall be saved by us. The Cyclops lay sprawled atop a giant boulder, sound asleep. 5 figures concealed themselves within rock fissures, waiting for their prey to arrive. All of them range from level 51 to level 56. He's here. The lead middle-aged man crouched behind a slanted boulder, peering into the distance through a long tactical telescope. Zhou Yuan, freelancer from Eternal Night City, Class B Archer, level 55. Hold your positions, Zhou Yuan said in a low voice. Wait until he engages the Cyclops before striking. That is the safest course of action. The other 4 nodded in agreement. Their leader had one defining trait: extreme caution. Following his orders was always the right choice. Then a sight that filled them with horror unfolded before their eyes. The Cyclops' fists failed to breach the defensive barriers surrounding the youth. The fine scales covering his body appeared to be dragon scales. Anyone connected to dragons in this world commanded extraordinary status. truly a scion of a wealthy clan. His family can even acquire such top-tier gear. Zhou Yuan narrowed his eyes, speaking with resentment. I have always detested the wealthy, especially powerful noble clans. The Maybach alone proves he is no ordinary person. It seems we are doing what must be done this day. Capture him, and seize every asset he carries without mercy. His companions all nodded at those words. That was exactly what needed to happen. But the next instant, the young man, merely level 30, glanced straight in their direction. A shudder ran through all 5 of them. It felt as if some primeval colossal beast had fixed its gaze upon them. He's detected us. Prepare to engage. Sweat beaded across Zhou Yuan's forehead. They had hidden flawlessly, or so they thought. How had they been discovered? There was no time to dwell on it now. Their opponent was only level 30, while they stood at level 50 and above. A full 20-level gap formed the foundation of their confidence. The rest readied themselves. At that moment, they watched the youth slowly raise his right hand. A dragon's pupil gradually opened upon the ring on his index finger. Nibelung, Golden Rhine. The thought rose simultaneously in all their minds. Golden light spilled across their faces. Their weapons slipped from their grasp and clattered to the ground. They stared transfixed at the golden glow ahead, unable to look away. The Rhine illusion unfolded before their eyes. That is Eternal Night City. Zhou Yuan pointed forward, his body trembling. Good heavens, what has happened? Why is Eternal Night City so prosperous? Yes, this is the truth. Humans possess inherent limitations. We must forge alliances with other races to advance. Ha! This is the ideal future. This is how things ought to be. The 5 stared at the radiance emanating from the Rhine treasure, stepping forward in a daze, foolish grins spreading across their faces as they reached out, desperate to touch it. These were their innermost desires. Humans, strange. The Cyclops scratched its head, staring confusedly at the 5 figures. If they had not marched out into plain sight, it would never have known anyone hid nearby. Soon after, greater fear welled up within it as it looked toward the young human. It carried a trace of giant blood, granting it acute sensitivity toward divine artifacts. Multiple terrifying auras emanated from the youth standing before it. As for Xiaolu, he activated the heart of the ocean hanging upon his chest. Streams of deep seawater surged forth, sweeping toward the Cyclops. Amid the monster's furious roar, the currents dragged it away. Deep sea prison. A level 35 Cyclops stood no chance of breaking free. Compared to the giant, Xia Li's attention rested firmly on these 5 traitors. They were undoubtedly the same group his aunt had warned him about. Nibelung manifested their deepest desires, allowing him to peer into their thoughts. Yet when he witnessed the vision conjured by the artifact, he froze. The illusion taking shape within Nibelung depicted Eternal Night City, a flourishing, thriving version of the city. Xiaolu was utterly baffled. What was going on? Could these truly be traitors? The 75-meter-tall defensive city walls had vanished. The streets bustled with at least 100 times more inhabitants, packed shoulder to shoulder. Eternal Night City rose in the shape of a pyramid, a central metropolis drawing countless realms to pay homage. Its influence stretched hundreds of kilometers outward. On the surface, the vision brimmed with love for humanity and devotion to Eternal Night City. Nothing about it suggested treachery. But soon he spotted something wrong. Not a single human walked within this version of the city. Alien races paraded through the streets in dominance. Atop the pyramid-shaped main citadel coiled a massive dragon with golden vertical pupils, gazing lazily down upon all below. Beneath it stood countless different races, ordered according to the beliefs held by the 5 conspirators. Xiaolu searched for signs of humanity. Eventually, he found them. Humans had undergone physical transformation. Archers possessed elongated tentacle-like arms capable of drawing enormous bows. Shield-bearers bore heavy shields fused to their shoulders, reinforced with vinewood to drastically boost their defense. Assassins sported insect-like reverse-jointed legs, granting greater speed and leaping power. Everything clicked into place for Xiaolu. These traitors were the assimilation faction. They believed humanity had no hope on its own. They planned to invite alien races into human territory to transform mankind. In the end, they sought to reshape Eternal Night City into this idealized vision. This is sheer delusion. Handing humanity's fate entirely over to alien races. How dare they imagine such a future? Xiaolu shook his head slightly. These people hid among ordinary citizens, making them extremely difficult to track. They were also the ones targeting him and his aunt. He slowly drew a great sword wreathed by the silhouette of a long dragon. Emperor Dragon Greatsword. He glanced toward the trapped Cyclops, gripped the sword with both hands, and swung upward. A black dragon phantom roared forth. 350000, a single instant kill. The giant eyeball, the size of a football, rolled free from the corpse. Water? Seawater. Glug glug glug. Trapped inside the deep-sea prison, the Cyclops swallowed several mouthfuls of salty seawater immediately. It strained with all its might, yet every blow struck nothing but flowing water. Its strength was completely nullified. Its single eye unleashed a petrification beam, which scattered within the seawater, unable to travel far. Shock overwhelmed it. From all its knowledge, the boundless battlefield contained no oceans. To drag a foe straight into deep seas within this realm demanded power of an unfathomable tier. Then it heard a dragon's roar. What was approaching? The Cyclops' soul shuddered. It looked down, and its lone eye shrank to a slit. The Black Dragon King. Great Lord, may I take my own life? There is no need for you to trouble yourself. That was the Cyclops' final thought. It was consumed by the Black Dragon King amid overwhelming terror. You have slain a level 35 elite Cyclops using the Emperor Dragon Greatsword experience gained. 120,000 job advancement material obtained. Petrifying eyeball Xia Lu nodded upon seeing the system notification. The Emperor Dragon Greatsword was overwhelmingly powerful. Who could stand unbowed before the emergence of the Black Dragon King? Dark golden light rose from the Cyclops' corpse, coalescing into a helmet. What made Xia Lu speechless was the massive living eyeball embedded upon its forehead, rolling constantly, as if alive. Name, gaze type, armor, helmet equipable level, level 35 usable classes, shield bearer, warrior, archer, mage and others. Grade, supreme divine artifact defense, 18,000 22,000 stat bonuses, constitution plus 1800, strength plus 1500 special effect, petrifying gaze. The wearer may actively fire a petrification beam from the central eyeball. Maximum range, 50 meters. Deals earth magic damage equal to 500 of the wearer's perception and inflicts an 8-second petrification debuff on target struck. While petrified, targets cannot move, attack, or cast spells. Their physical defense rises by 200, yet their magic defense drops by 80. If a physical critical strike lands on a petrified target, the stone shell shatters, triggering additional damage equal to 300 perception and dispelling petrification. Ignores level gaps, boss innate mechanics, and defensive skills. Special effect, Watchful Presence. Automatically activates once the wearer stares in a single direction for over 2 seconds. Creates a watchful domain with an 80-meter radius centered on the focal point of their vision. All hostile units within the domain, regardless of stealth, camouflage, or planar separation, are forcibly revealed. Targets suffer the pressure of observation. Movement speed reduced by 40, attack speed reduced by 25, and spell casting time increased by 50. Passive ability, no manual activation required. Special effect, Furious Stare. When activated, the helmet's eyeball opens fully, its vertical slit pupil expanding into a complete circle. Releases a fear aura spanning a 150-meter diameter. All enemy targets within range must pass a will check. Failures fall under an 8-second fear state, losing control of their bodies and fleeing away from the wearer. They cannot use any skills or items during this period. Targets under fear receive an additional 30 damage taken from all sources. Simultaneously, a 30-meter-tall phantom of the Cyclops ancestor erupts from the ground at the wearer's line of sight. The phantom's single eye matches the wearer's gaze perfectly. It slams its fist upon the designated zone, dealing physical damage equal to 800 of the wearer's strength to all foes within a 30-meter radius, and inflicting 3 seconds of stun. The phantom persists for 15 seconds. Shifting the wearer's gaze redirects the phantom's strikes. Description: according to ancient Cyclops legends, their ancestor locked eyes with rock spirits deep beneath the earth for 7 whole days and 7 nights. In the end, he acquired the curse capable of turning any living being to stone. When you stare into the abyss may turn you to rock. Setting aside the stat bonuses, this giant helmet outperforms the deep-sea helmet. The sonar scan of the deep-sea helmet covers all directions, yet possesses limited range. This Cyclops helmet only scans a fixed direction, but reaches farther and penetrates deeper. As an experienced combatant, the latter is naturally the superior choice. After reading the item description, Xia Lu made up his mind. However, he had not yet completed his job advancement. He could not equip level 35 gear. He then turned toward the 5 traitors trapped within Nibelung's illusion. Though they dreamed of a prosperous eternal night city, their plan was to invite alien races in to rule humanity. That was something he could never tolerate. He would interrogate them thoroughly, and above all, secure his aunt's safety. Xia Lu rested his hand upon the hilt of the Emperor Dragon Greatsword. All 108 scales of his dragon scale armor lit up. They revered dragons above all else. And he stood before them as a dragon king. Wretched humans, Xia Lu looked down at the 5 of them and spoke. Kneel before your dragon king. Zhou Yuan froze upon laying eyes on Xia Lu. Then he crashed to his knees, pressing his face close against the ground. Dragon King. His voice shook. To speak with you is our greatest honor. The remaining 4 followed suit, dropping to their knees. They kowtowed loudly again and again. Reveal every detail of your plans to me. Do not omit a single truth. Xia Lu stared at them, his expression cold. Zhou Yuan answered without hesitation. Honorable Dragon King, humanity is far too weak. We struggle endlessly within the boundless battlefield, and defeat looms ever closer. Therefore, we beg you to grant us the power of dragons. We have developed forbidden arts that allow human bodies to perfectly assimilate alien power, greatly elevating all base attributes. The Zerg assault upon Eternal Night City was part of our experiment. We used forbidden spells to disrupt the hive's senses, tricking the insects into believing the city's defensive runes had failed and launching an all-out offensive. The experiment yielded remarkable results. At least 3 of us have mastered the complete forbidden art, gaining a direct boost of 300 agility. If the Dragon King would bestow draconic power upon us, we can spread this strength across all humanity. Mankind shall become your most loyal followers. So that is how it is. This aligns closely with the vision shown by Nibelung. What exact strategy did you devise for this Zerg assault? Xia Lu rested his chin in one hand and nodded slowly. We were about to. Zhou Yuan's words cut short as blood began seeping from his 7 facial orifices. 200,000, 200,000 huge damage values floated above his head. The other 4 suffered the same fate and collapsed to the ground. Someone controlling them remotely? Xia Lu immediately scanned his surroundings. The sonar of his deep-sea helmet detected no nearby units. His gaze sharpened as he recalled Zhou Yuan's earlier words. Humanity will lose soon. We cannot fight against the other races. That is why groups such as these have emerged. Frontline battlefield. Blood mist mixed with insect acid lingered in the air. Insect carcasses and human remains littered the ground. Lu Shiyu leaned against a boulder, gasping heavily. Her arms ached so badly she could barely lift them. Weakness, exhaustion, and numerous other negative debuffs floated above her head. I cannot fall. Lu Shiyu, you cannot die here. If I collapse, I may never rise again. Xia Lu has only just arrived in the boundless battlefield. He has no one he can rely on. What will become of him if I die? Lu Shiyu pushed herself unsteadily to her feet, supporting herself with the golden spiked staff. She noticed something surprising. Though coated in corrosive green insect acid, the staff showed no signs of erosion, still shimmering with brilliant golden light. This was the power of a supreme divine artifact. Not long before, a soldier bug had lunged at her from behind. Her cowardly escape boots were still on cooldown. This left no way to dodge with a backward dash. The insect's sharp proboscis stabbed toward her spine. Yet the rogue armor nullified all damage, leaving nothing more than a faint white mark on its surface. This set of divine gear possessed terrifying strength. Beside her stood the remaining dozens of soldiers of the 3rd Mobile Unit. Nearly 200 had set out several hours earlier. Only these few survived. They were cornered within a hollow stretch of rocky wasteland, surrounded by swarms of alien insects. Dozens of flying insects circled overhead. The constant buzzing of their membranous wings blended with the wind, sounding like an unceasing death knell. Captain, are we never going to make it back? I don't want to die here. Zhao Yan, a level 30 knight, could see nothing but despair and panic in his eyes. Watching comrades fall one after another, death loomed ever closer. It was a miracle he had not lost his mind. Ugh, they promised this would be a simple mission. How can anyone call this simple? Zhao Yang, a level 33 mage, snarled bitterly. They had essentially been sent here to die. The alien insects could pounce and tear them apart at any moment. Everyone, remain calm. Lu Shiyu took a deep breath, suppressing the panic rising within her, then addressed the survivors. We cannot stay trapped here. Sooner or later, the insects will overwhelm us. We must strike out actively if we hope to survive. At those words, the others shook their heads. Break out. They could barely hold their ground where they stood. Just then, a shrill screech suddenly echoed out. A soldier bug as tall as a single-story building darted out from nowhere. Its sharp forelimb spike lunged straight for Lu Shiyu's head. Watch out. Everyone's eyes widened in shock at the sight. Yet the next moment, Something even more astounding unfolded before them. Lu Xiu shifted backwards several meters in a manner that defied the laws of physics. She halted right in front of the soldier bug, then raised a club in her hands and struck. A dull thud rang out, akin to smashing an overripe watermelon. The soldier bug crashed to the ground, knocked unconscious instantly. Stop standing there. Move in and finish it off. Lu Xiu gasped for breath, her gaze warily sweeping the surroundings. The surrounding alien insects were already lurking, waiting for a chance to strike. The others snapped out of their daze and rushed forward to land combined finishing blows. After a flurry of strikes, the alien insect perished. Stick close to me. I'll lead us break through. Lu Xiu charged ahead without hesitation, gripping the staff with both hands, her eyes sharp and resolute. The rest stared in amazement. It looked as if she intended to face the entire army of alien bugs alone. She's charging out just like that? Damn it. The worst outcome is death anyway. I'm going with her. Do whatever you want. Charge. All 5 moles sank into the deep sea, destined to become shark prey. Xiaolu watched as they vanished into the shark's maws. Within the endless battlefield, people often had no say in their fate. But they had stood in his way, so they had to die? After confirming there was no one else nearby, Xiaolu returned to Eternal Night City and headed straight to the instructor. The instructor looked up and saw him, surprise flickering across his face. Did you bring back the materials for the job advancement quest? Xiaolu placed the one-eyed giant's eyeball on the table. The fist-sized orb still pulsated faintly. It was over 99% fresh. The instructor carefully lifted the giant eyeball and examined it under the light for a moment. Perfect condition, with a high concentration of petrification magic residue. He placed the eyeball inside a special sealing box and stamped the job advancement quest document. A notification window popped up before Xiaoli's eyes. Job advancement quest completed. Job advancement successful. No class freelancer. Does not belong to any class system, thus unrestricted by all class limitations. Able to learn universal skills from all classes. All attacks deal full attribute damage, with damage bonus equal to 5 of the sum of strength, agility, intelligence, and stamina. Skills can be learned via skill books or instructor tutorship. Skill slot capacity, 0/5. Total skill slots unlock gradually as level rises. An ascending beam of light wrapped around Xiaolu, boosting him multiple levels in one go. All experience accumulated on the rainy viaduct earlier was released the instant he completed the job advancement. His level jumped non-stop from LV.30 all the way up, stopping only at LV.35. He could finally equip the giant helmet gaze and the Sky Tree Spear. The helmet offered modest bonuses, but the Sky Tree Spear could be described as brokenly powerful. Whoever he targeted would die, 3 targets each day. The sole condition was that he must sense his foe. Fewer than 20 freelancers have been officially recorded in Eternal Night City. I have no advice to offer. I can only wish you luck. He paused, then added another remark. Universal skill books can be purchased from stalls run by freelancers or exchanged for contribution points. Choose carefully based on your own situation. Skill books in Eternal Night City are reasonably priced. Thanks. Xiaolu nodded and turned toward the door. Just then, commotion erupted outside the city walls, as if a group of people had returned. Xiaolu lifted his head at once. The single eye embedded within his giant helmet slowly opened. 2 seconds of observation. Figures outside the city came clearly into view. More than a dozen people stumbled forward, utterly drained, barely able to stay on their feet. Sentries stationed beneath Eternal Night City's walls reacted first. They twisted their heads and shouted. It's the 3rd mobile unit. They made it back. Bring stretchers over, hurry. Chaos spread across the scene. Ant. Xiaolu caught sight of a familiar face, and a surge of emotion welled up inside him. He sprinted forward at top speed, leaping straight down from the rooftop. The scarlet doom cloak billowed out behind him. He glided through the air and landed directly in front of Lu Xiu. Lu Xiu's eyes had almost fluttered shut from exhaustion. When she spotted Xiaolu, her gaze lit up instantly. She forced herself to stand upright. Xiaolu, stay beside me. Ant, I'll protect you. Lu Xiu was so worn out she could barely keep her eyes open. If not for the rogue armor shielding her, she would have lost excessive blood. She would have fallen unconscious and never completed the journey back like her other teammates. Yet when that familiar face appeared before her, all weariness vanished from her mind. Anxiety took its place. Danger lurked everywhere across the endless battlefield. Threats came not only from foreign races outside the city, but also certain residents within its walls. One misstep meant death. How could her young nephew possibly understand all these hidden perils? That was why she had spoken those words. Xiaolu, stay beside me. Ant, I'll protect you. But before she could finish speaking, all strength drained from her body. Xiala stepped forward quickly and caught her in his arms. She had no energy left at all, her limbs limp and heavy. Xia Lu brushed stray strands of hair away from Lu Shiyu's forehead, his gaze distant for a moment. This was far from the capable ant he knew. The heavy toll of battle felt unfamiliar to him. Still, the most important thing was that she had returned safely. Once equipped with all the powerful artifacts, she would never suffer such hardship again. Ant, let's leave here first. Xia Lu scanned the surroundings, supporting the limp Lu Shiyu as he prepared to depart. Wait. Lu Shiyu weakly lifted a hand and rested it lightly on Xia Li's shoulder, her voice faint. This matter is far from over. Eternal Night City owes us an explanation. Why were we sent on a mission destined for heavy casualties? Xia Li nodded slightly. Something about the whole affair was deeply suspicious. Those moles had targeted them without clear reason. It was necessary to bring this matter out into the open. The remaining survivors were receiving emergency treatment. They glanced toward Lu Shiyu, who sent them a subtle signal. This isn't finished. Zhao Yang abruptly stood up, shouting indignantly. The High Command of Eternal Night City must give us answers. We were told this would be a simple mission to place cursed sealing stones. Why did we walk straight into an ambush? Hundreds set out, and only a handful of us remain. As his words fell, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Everyone looked stunned. No one expected a routine assignment to turn into such a disaster. At that moment, a voice drifted over from the city gate. Those who enter Eternal Night City must obey orders. All heads turned. A middle-aged man in a dark gray military officer's uniform stepped out from the gate, flanked by two fully armed regular soldiers. Officer Sunday. The gate guards saluted in unison. Officer Sun gave a slight nod, then looked toward the mission survivors. Intelligence for the Outer Nest suppression operation contained incomplete information. Eternal Night City will investigate the source of this intelligence error. Until then, accusations that we intentionally sent you to die are baseless. Every military mission carries risk. All of you volunteered to serve within the endless battlefield, and you ought to be prepared to sacrifice yourselves for the nation. The sacrifices of the 3rd Mobile Unit deserve respect. Do not tarnish them with endless questioning. After hearing this, Zhao Yang and the others fell silent. Officer Sun's few sentences had blocked all their rebuttals. Several seconds passed. Zhao Yang slammed his fist against a boulder and roared. We want to go home. Let us leave this place. This is not military service. This is murder. If we stay, we will all die sooner or later. Hundreds departed. Only a few of us survived. If you intend to send us to our deaths, you might as well end us right now and grant a quick demise. None of us have reached LV.40. Are we nothing but cannon fodder? The other survivors voiced their agreement. Their own lives hung in the balance. They had to fight back. Officer Sun's footsteps paused. His tone remained unchanged. Your service term has not expired. You cannot return. Article 17, Clause 3 of the Great Xia Military Law. Anyone conscripted to the endless battlefield who abandons their post or attempts to return to the rear before completing service. They shall be charged as a deserter. Under Article 42 of Military Law, deserters face confinement at minimum or immediate execution at worst. You have the right to file an appeal. The Eternal Night City Military Tribunal will hear your case within 3 months. Until then, you remain officially assigned to the 3rd Mobile Unit. I suggest you focus on recovering, rather than shouting at your superior at the city gate. With that, Officer Sun turned to leave. One final sentence echoed behind him. New deployment orders will be delivered to you tomorrow. Keep fighting. The next dawn arrived. Abandoned repair warehouse on the edge of the Freelancer district. Lu Shiyu leaned against a rusted load-bearing pillar with her arms folded across her chest. Xia Lu stood behind her, half his figure concealed within shadow. Lu Shiyu looked over the people inside the warehouse. Zhao Yang, Zhao Yin, plus 3 other battle-hardened veterans who had crawled back alive. We cannot rely on anyone outside this group, Lu Shiyu said softly. Officer Sun sent us into a deadly trap once, and he will not hesitate to do it again. No one within the regular military command will speak up for us anymore. Our only advantage is that we are still alive. From this moment onward, we can only depend on ourselves. The others listened, their expressions heavy. Captain Lu, we are only level 30-something. We count for nothing in the endless battlefield. You need to hit at least LV.50 to survive here. Officer Sun knows that all too well. Damn it. Is the front line of Great Xia really allowed to operate like this? Where is the Lord of Eternal Night City? I refuse to believe he turns a blind eye to everything. The group chattered, burning with anger, yet helpless. At the end of the day, they were simply too weak, expendable, nothing more than cannon fodder. It seemed the leaders of Eternal Night City thought exactly the same way. What a cruel world. Who said we have no options? A clear voice cut through their tangled thoughts. Everyone lifted their heads in surprise, staring at Lu Shiyu's delicate features. Lu Shiyu did not speak, stepping aside instead. Xiao Lu stepped out slowly from the shadows. Before anyone could voice their confusion, Xiao Lu waved his hand. The ruby ring on his finger blazed brightly. The radiant golden light of top-tier divine artifacts lit up the entire warehouse. More than a dozen golden spike clubs lined up side by side. Piles of rogue armor stacked into small hills. There were also goblin-set artifacts, such as the coward's sprint boots. These were the lowest-grade artifacts stored within Xiao Li's ring, perfect for testing the mettle of these people. If they performed well, they could earn merman-set artifacts. Perhaps even dragon race-set artifacts. Silence fell over the warehouse the moment rows of goblin artifacts appeared. Everyone held their breath. They had seen artifacts of this caliber on Lu Shiyu before. The guaranteed stun upon headshot alone was enough to let them cut through swarms of alien bugs with ease. Now dozens of such artifacts stood before them. Are these for us? Good heavens, genuine top-tier divine artifacts. Zhao Yang stared blankly at the piles of equipment, hands trembling, his mind reeling. Was he dreaming? Even as a Class B mage, these items held overwhelming appeal for him. He would even consider abandoning his original class. Equipped with this set, he could fight freely on the battlefield just like Captain Lu. At the very least, it would guarantee his survival. These are priceless divine artifacts. A single piece is worth hundreds of millions. Can we truly accept them? You're right, their stats are outrageous. One rogue armor alone adds 500 stamina and 50,000 hit points. It's overpowered. I have to ask, where did all these top-tier artifacts come from? Xiao Lu watched them calmly, satisfied with their reaction. If any of them had rushed forward and grabbed the artifacts without hesitation, it would spell trouble, proof of unbridled greed, making them difficult to manage. Whoever accepted his artifacts would be obligated to work for him. New deployment orders for Eternal Night City will arrive soon. You all understand how deadly the next mission will be. Take these artifacts, keep this quiet, and follow orders. Can you do that? 12 people in total. Xiao Lu swept his gaze across every face. The combat power of one person equipped with the goblin set paled in comparison to a full squad wielding matching artifacts. With this force, he could accomplish far more. To his surprise, Zhao Yan dropped to his knees with a thud. If the new orders come, we will surely die. You have given us hope. You are our savior. Anyone who dares betray, you will be the first I deal with. Zhao Yan struck his chest hard, the sound echoing. He was clearly a man of sincere emotion. Inspired by him, the rest knelt down excitedly as well. Seeing his plan bear fruit, Xiao Lu turned toward his aunt. Lu Shiyu nodded and stepped forward, speaking gently. All of you stand up. Come forward one by one to collect your artifacts. Register your name, class, level, family information, address, emergency contact, and preferred weapon type with me. If any equipment is lost or sold off on the battlefield, I will find out, and I will recover it. There are 3 non-negotiable rules. First, all combat orders come from me. No one may take independent action without authorization. Second, no one may disclose the origin, quantity, or attributes of these artifacts to outsiders. Third, anyone who takes the artifacts then tries to leave the squad alone or leaks information to people outside our group will be eliminated by my own hand. These are red lines. Cross them, and you die. Do you understand? Understood. Zhao Yan replied first, glancing back at the others. Captain Lu has given us a chance to live. Anyone who wastes it will answer to me. With that, he began filling out the registration form, then carefully picked up the rogue armor before collecting the remaining pieces of the set. He admired each one endlessly. Approximately 10 minutes later, all 12 people were fully outfitted with goblin artifacts. Those whose class clashed with the gear could choose to develop a secondary combat specialization. Even after distribution, half of the goblin artifacts remained and used in the warehouse. Xiao Lu waved his hand. The ruby ring flared to life, storing away the leftover equipment. At last, he had cleared space within his ring storage. Wait here for further instructions. Aunt, come with me. I have more things to give you. The compartment within the warehouse was dim and cramped. Xiao Lu closed the door and turned around, meeting Lu Shiyu's gaze only inches away. You ranked first in the professional exam. You had the privilege to choose when to enter the endless battlefield. Why rush in here? You should have stayed in Linhai City to level up safely, reach LV point 50, and clear every available dungeon. The rear offers stable dungeon access, secure supply lines, and complete job advancement systems. Why come here? Do you know how many people die here every single day? Lu Shiyu spoke rapidly, her eyes filled with urgency. Xiaolu shook his head in response. If I hadn't come, certain people would remain uneasy. Aunt, you were only LV.23 when you were sent to the endless battlefield. I ranked first among all professional candidates. Do you think they would leave me unmonitored? Besides, I have already cleared the highest level dungeon in Linhai City. I cannot bring myself to grind experience against weak, low-level monsters. Lu Shiyu stared at him, then fell silent for a long while. Eventually, she reached out and stroked Xia Li's hair softly. Her voice turned gentle. You have always had your own mind ever since you were little. After your parents passed away, I never truly managed to keep you under watch. Now you command such a stock of powerful artifacts. Before long, I will be relying on you for protection. We are family. There is no need to speak like that. Xiaolu smiled. The ruby ring on his index finger shimmered. Aunt, I still have more gear for you. As he finished speaking, the tide eruption source, Neptune Trident, materialized. Alongside it appeared the blue tide armor, deep stride boots, blue tide scimitar, deep sea helmet, and more ocean-themed equipment. Next came dragon scale armor, dragon emperor greatsword, and other dragon race artifact sets. There were also loose unique artifacts such as the tooth fairy gear that Xiaolu had no use for. The dazzling radiance of countless top-tier artifacts illuminated both of their faces. The small compartment was quickly packed full of equipment. Lu Shiyu's eyes widened sharply, gasping in shock. Reading through the special properties of each piece of gear, she felt as though trapped within a vivid dream. The Trident of the Sea God was one of the most famous divine artifacts, covered in textbooks. It could command seawater, and whoever wielded it gained dominion over the entire ocean. And now it sat plainly before her eyes. To her even greater shock, the other pieces of equipment nearby were no weaker than the Sea God's Trident. The Goblin Divine artifact set paled in comparison by several tiers. There was also the Azure Sea Scimitar, stacking an overall speed boost with every slash. Truly swift as lightning. When she laid eyes on the Merman Deep Dive set, she could not tear her gaze away. Not even the Dragonkin set could draw her attention. Then there was the Tooth Fairy, capable of endlessly boosting attributes. Lu Shiyu's breathing grew rapid. With this set of divine artifacts, she might just brush against the threshold of invincibility. Look, I'll take this Merman Deep Dive set. I feel it suits me best. As she spoke, Lu Shiyu began to remove her armor. She took off the Goblin Divine artifact set and handed it back to Xiaolu. Then she happily donned the new artifact set. Xiaolu watched as she shed her armor and quickly diverted his gaze. She really did not treat him like an outsider. Seconds later, Lu Shiyu stepped slowly out from the storage compartment. The deep-sea mask covered the upper half of her face, leaving only her sleek jawline and attractive red lips exposed. The 12 people outside, who had been excitedly examining the Goblin Divine artifact set, turned to look and fell speechless. An aura of mystery, elegance, and sharp prowess radiated from her all at once. Was this the power of divine artifacts? Just then, notification alerts chimed from everyone's communication wristbands at the same time. Latest deployment order issued for the remnants of the 3rd Mobile Unit. Beep, beep, beep. Every communication wristband vibrated simultaneously. The new order had arrived. A tremor ran through the group as they frowned to read it. All personnel of the 3rd Mobile Unit remnants are to assemble immediately at the north gate of Eternal Night City. And escort armored truck XE-047 to the frontline outpost, Gravel Vanguard. The vehicle carries top priority confidential supplies urgently needed at the front. Their safe delivery must be guaranteed. The signature block bore Officer Sun's official electronic seal. Gravel Vanguard? I remember it's a temporary outpost with decent security. Has Officer Sun finally changed his ways and assigned us a relatively safe mission? Humph, it works once or twice. If he keeps sending us to die, no one will be willing to fight for him. Captain Liu, what's your take on this? After reading the deployment order, the group began to discuss, their tones rather relaxed. They had just obtained the Goblin Divine artifact set, and now they received such an uncomplicated mission. Everything suddenly looked far brighter. Still, the final call rested with Lu Shiyu. Everyone turned their heads toward her, waiting for her decision. Lu Shiyu exchanged a glance with Xiaolu, nodded slightly, and said, We will accept this order, but do not let your guard down. Things may not be as straightforward as they seem. The group nodded in unison. Xiaolu stood lazily at the back. As an independent adventurer, he would not involve himself in regular military operations. His priority was to seek rewards and farm divine artifacts. Besides, the World Tree Spear, a causality-grade weapon in his possession, itched to be used. How could he resist hurling it at a few boss monsters? At the north gate of Eternal Night City, searchlights flooded the entrance with bright light. When Lu Xiyu led her squad to the assembly point, armored truck XE-047 was already parked on the buffer zone outside the city gate. The armored truck was silver-white all over, forged from some form of alloy. 6 pairs of road wheels pressed deep indentations into the charred ground. The mission liaison was a bespectacled logistics officer, standing with hands clasped behind his back in front of the truck. When he spotted Lu Xiyu, he held out an electronic signing tablet. This transport mission is of utmost importance. Upon completion, you will receive 100 contribution points. You must remain fully alert at all times. Understood. Lu Xiyu nodded and signed on the tablet. At that moment, a dull thud echoed from inside the armored truck. Something kicked hard against the interior, shaking the entire vehicle. Everyone grew alarmed and turned quickly to look. Something was wrong. The truck weighed at least 10 tons. What could shake it like that? The logistics officer swept his gaze over them and spoke calmly. As you just witnessed, the cargo inside this armored truck is a living creature. It is currently under deep anesthesia. You must deliver it to Gravel Vanguard within 12 hours. The carriage is fitted with military-grade anesthesia sustainment equipment that automatically administers additional doses every 3 hours. Only 4 injections can be deployed, meaning the anesthesia will wear off after 12 hours. If it awakens early, no matter where the convoy is located, none of us can bear the consequences. A living creature? Lu Xiyu frowned. She recalled what Xia Lu had told her before. Certain insiders sought to bring in foreign races and modify humanity. This armored truck was deeply suspicious. Even so, there was little she could do about it, so long as it was not a suicide mission. The journey from Eternal Night City to Gravel Vanguard would take only 8 hours. They had a full 4 hours of buffer time. The mission was entirely viable. Very well, I understand. Lu Xiyu nodded, opened the truck's driver's door, and climbed inside. Everyone, board the vehicles. She waved at the team behind her. Zhao Yang and Zhao Yan each led 5 men to board the 2 escort vehicles. The instant the doors closed, another dull thud resounded from within the carriage. Lu Xiyu glanced toward the sealed cargo hold through the rearview mirror. She pressed her foot on the gas. The armored truck let out a low roar, its 6 pairs of road wheels rolling over the charred buffer zone. The whole convoy rumbled north toward the gravel wasteland. Far away, atop a cluster of giant rock formations, stood Xiao Lu. His arms were folded across his chest, the scarlet doom fluttering behind him as he watched the armored truck depart. In the next instant, his figure flickered and vanished from the spot. Multiple foreign clans inhabited the lands surrounding Eternal Night City: insectoids, trolls, and the giants. The giants carried mythic bloodlines, and the divine artifacts they dropped ought to be formidable. It was the perfect chance to hunt for artifacts and level up along the way. Approximately 1 hour later, Lu Xiyu steered the armored truck racing across jagged gravel terrain. Rock walls riddled with wind erosion stretched out in all directions. This terrain makes me uneasy, Lu Xiyu frowned. She reached for her communication wristband, intending to order her teammates to speed through the area. Suddenly, the earth roughly 50 meters ahead surged upward. A violent shockwave swept toward them, carrying flying gravel. There was no time to react before it engulfed the convoy. Zhao Yang and Zhao Yan's escort vehicles were flipped over by the blast. The cars tumbled twice through the air, slamming against the rocks with deafening metallic crashes. The armored truck also lifted 6 wheels off the ground. Yet its immense weight sent it crashing back to earth after only a few seconds suspended in the air. Deep dive void. Amid the violent shaking, Lu Xiyu's body dissolved into seawater and vanished, leaving the driver's seat soaked. Once the chaos subsided, she emerged from the deep dive void. Blue data streams flowed across her deep-sea mask, and her sonar perception unfolded outward. Dozens of red unit markers appeared on the mask's display. Lu Xiyu's breath caught. There were no fewer than several dozen hostiles, closing in to encircle them. They had walked straight into an ambush. If they were insectoids, the red markers would have numbered hundreds more. These foes must belong to another foreign race. Lu Xiyu steadied her emotions and spoke sternly into her communication wristband. All units, report status. Zhao Yang reporting. No casualties in my squad. The rogue armor's effect triggered. We haven't lost a single hit point. Over. Zhao Yan reporting. Everyone is mostly unharmed. Only one member lost 5,000 health points and failed to activate the rogue armor effect. Over. Lu Xiyu nodded slightly. The Goblin Divine artifact set was truly reliable. In past circumstances, this single ambush would have left most of them dead or wounded. She then spoke into the communicator. Confirmed enemy engagement. Prepare for battle. Before her words faded, tall figures materialized out of the dust. They were trolls, standing over 5 meters tall, their bodies covered in rough, gray-green hide. Massive arms gripped giant stone clubs thicker than a human torso. One troll leaped out from the haze, raising its club high and smashing it down toward one of the escort vehicles. A thunderous crash echoed out. The vehicle's metal armor caved inward under the blow. The crew inside were jolted violently, their organs churning from the impact. What staggering strength! Ho ho, it is troll time. The trolls go to war. The trolls' distinctive thick-tongued voices echoed between the rock walls, sounding rather unintelligent. Name: Common Troll. Level: LV.57. Health: 880000. Damage: 13,000 17,500. Skills: Bone-Crunching Bite, Savage Charge, Berserk Roar, Thick Skin. Description: Trolls are born destroyers. Though low in intellect, they possess razor-sharp battle instincts. They roam the rocky wastelands of the endless battlefield, frequently raiding human outposts for food and water. Humans established regular feeding sites to gradually reach a truce with the trolls, and the two sides currently maintain a tentative peace. The status panel faded, and more towering shadows stepped out of the dust. Bumps covered their rough hides. Each troll hefted a heavy stone club, striding forward unsteadily. At that moment, surging currents of seawater rushed forth. Lu Xiu darted out from the deep-dive void. Ocean currents lifted her into midair. The sea god's trident swept in an inky blue arc in her grasp. Countless fine water droplets condensed in the air as the blade passed. She swung the trident horizontally, launching a 20-meter wave-shaped water blade from its tip. The seawater compressed to nearly solid form the instant it left the trident. The blade cut horizontally through the air. Several trolls at the front were struck in the chest. Deep, bone-reaching gashes split their gray-green hides. The trolls stumbled backward several paces, and damage numbers floated above their heads all at once. 13923 for 143,280 142,742 now. Move out, everyone. Lu Xiu shouted sharply into her communication wristband. In the next instant, the doors of both escort vehicles were kicked open simultaneously. 12 team members leaped out, each wielding a golden spiked club. Their movements were perfectly coordinated, a highly skilled skull-cracking squad. Zhao Yang clambered out of the overturned carriage, barely steadying his feet, when a 5-meter-tall troll charged toward him swinging its stone club. Zhao Yang stared upward in horror, watching the club draw closer in his field of vision. Zhao Yang! A teammate beside him shouted in alarm. The next second, the slippery retreat effect of the sneaky escape boots activated. Before Zhao Yang could react, he slid backward 5 or 6 meters. A slick puddle of oil remained where he had stood. Everyone stared at the sight in shock. Damn! The troll stepped onto the oil patch, its legs sliding wildly. After a comical struggle, its enormous body toppled backward with a resounding crash. Hey, this gear really works. Zhao Yang looked up and grinned. Top-tier divine artifacts truly lived up to their reputation. The experience was incredible. Now's our chance. Zhao Yan roared and charged forward first. He brought his golden spiked club crashing down onto the troll's massive head. Headshot stun triggered. The troll stiffened rigidly from the blow. 78,429. The remaining squad members swarmed forward, striking relentlessly with their golden spiked clubs. Damage values continued to pop up above the trolls. You are ruining my good mood. I am not ugly, and soon you will be. The other trolls continued speaking in their guttural tongue. Still, the skull-cracking squad gradually found their rhythm. Some circled behind the trolls using their agility, clambering up their bodies and smashing their clubs against the rounded backs of their heads. Others charged forward directly, relying on the rogue armor to absorb blows or catching foes off guard with the sneaky escape boots. A single well-placed strike to the head with the golden spike club was enough to decide the fight. Roughly an hour later, the group collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath. Troll corpses lay heaped all around them. Death notifications echoed continuously in everyone's minds. LV.57 troll eliminated, LV.55 troll eliminated, LV.53 troll eliminated. The skull-cracking squad lay on the ground. They fully relaxed only after confirming no trolls remained standing. After over an hour of intense combat, they, an average level 35 team, had defeated trolls averaging level 55. Though victory relied heavily on the properties of the Goblin Divine Artifact set, the battle had been exhilarating, and there had been no threat of death hanging over them. Gather all spoils. We will divide them evenly afterward. We cannot linger. Troll reinforcements may arrive at any moment. Lu Xiyu remained in peak condition. The fight had been simple for her, equipped with the Merman deep dive set. Streams of seawater lifted her hovering in midair. The others nodded and quickly collected loot from the troll carcasses. West of Eternal Night City lay the giant's territory. Xia Lu stood atop a giant boulder, the single eye on his giant helmet gazing toward the distance. The giant's territory stretched out before him. A primitive royal compound constructed from massive stones, beast bones, and dark red vines. Numerous red markers dotted the area. Around 30 giants rested lazily within. What drew his gaze most was the enormous throne standing at the compound's center. Its towering backrest was carved with rugged giant tribal totems. Seated upon it was a giant dozens of meters tall. Name: Giant Chieftain Gagorgan. Level: LV.62. Boss: Health: 450,000. Damage: 180,000, 280,000. Skills: Earth Tremor, Giant Hurl, Primordial Roar, Stone Skin, Beast Taming, Furious Counterattack. Passive: Earth Bloodline. The giant chieftain maintains resonance with the earth as long as its feet touch the ground. It is immune to all knockback, knockdown, and displacement effects, and regenerates 0.1 maximum health per second while standing on land. This passive temporarily deactivates if both feet leave the ground. Description: Giant Chieftain Gorgon possesses a trace of orthodox blood from the mythic giant lineage, wielding overwhelming oppressive power. No other foreign clans in the vicinity dare oppose him. He once laid siege to Eternal Night City, and after prolonged conflict and negotiations, the two sides returned to an uneasy peace. Mythic giant bloodline. Xia Lu paid little heed to the rest of the information, but his eyes lit up at those words. No matter how massive the boss's health pool or formidable its defenses against the World Tree Spear, it would be nothing more than a target to hurl. What divine artifacts it might drop was what mattered most to him. In the next instant, golden light flickered across the Nibelung ring. The World Tree Spear materialized in his grasp. Its rough bark-like surface belied its immense power. Suddenly, the boss Gorgon seated on the giant throne lifted its head sharply, locking its gaze directly on Xia Li's position. The aura of impending death sent tremors through its body. Human, do you dare raise your hand against the giant clan? Eternal Night City, 7th underground level. Heavy alloy blast doors slid open to both sides. Officer Sun strode out of an elevator. Purification runes lining the corridor hummed low, filtering formaldehyde and foreign race pheromones from the air layer by layer. He passed through 3 gates requiring both iris scanning and mana wave verification before entering the main experimental zone. Beneath the vast curved dome stood dozens of transparent experimental chambers filled with high-concentration nutrient fluid. Each chamber held a giant monster over 6 meters long suspended in the liquid. Their bodies retained partial human outlines. Yet limbs had been replaced with body parts taken from insectoids, trolls, and other species. Dark green mana cores were embedded along their spines. Officer Sun halted before Chamber 1. The nutrient fluid inside had been drained, and the test subject within was nowhere to be seen. A bespectacled assistant hurried forward to deliver his report. Sir, combat data for Test Subject 1 has been compiled. Test Subject 1, level LV.45, was deployed for field testing on the outskirts of the insect nest at 5 o'clock this morning. Before falling in battle, it eliminated 37 worker insects, 12 raiders, and 2 nest guardians, surviving for 6 hours. He flipped to the next page of data and continued. The 3rd mobile unit deployed to the same combat zone had a full roster before the operation. Only 13 survived afterward. The total number of insectoids eliminated by the unit is roughly equal to the tally from Test Subject 1. Combat Effectiveness Assessment. A single test subject's battlefield performance exceeds that of a full human squad. The test subjects are now capable of replacing ordinary soldiers on the front lines. Officer Sun nodded faintly, a smile tugging at his lips. He turned his gaze toward the rows of experimental chambers farther in the distance. More dormant bodies floated within the nutrient fluid. A quick count revealed no fewer than 30. Our era is nearly upon us, he said in a low voice. When that day comes, the front lines will be held by test subjects, and the pressure on Eternal Night City will plummet. Our children will no longer face mandatory conscription. They will have ample time to level up safely in the rear. We only require a handful of professionals to assist with the modifications. These are all necessary sacrifices. The assistant nodded and continued his report. The annual tournament of Eternal Night City will commence in 7 days. Test subjects 2 through 10 are ready for activation. Technical teams estimate that if these subjects successfully integrate the giant bloodline genes, their combat power may reach the standard of level 60 elite monsters. He lifted his head, barely able to contain rising excitement. If we secure a ranking in the tournament, our test subjects will cease to be an underground project. They will become officially recognized combat troops of Eternal Night City. Director Sun gripped the alloy railings, overcome with agitation. Submit these figures for the tournament 7 days from now. Test Subject 1 has proven its battlefield efficiency through real combat. It is time to let those higher-ups witness its power firsthand. At that moment, the military communication band on his wrist flashed harsh crimson. A top-secret call. It was the City Lord. Director Sun froze mid-step. He swiped a finger across the band to accept the transmission. A holographic image materialized, displaying a stern, grim face. The City Lord of Eternal Night City wore a dark military uniform, resting his chin atop interlaced hands. City Lord. Director Sun saluted respectfully. What are your orders? I have just received word. Human professionals have been spotted within giant territory. Are they your men? Cease all operations immediately. The giants must not be provoked right now. Director Sun was utterly stunned. The giants? City Lord, I am unaware of the incident you speak of. None of my combat units, test subjects or regular soldiers included, have received orders to operate inside giant territory today. Furthermore, we have a cooperation treaty with the giants. A reckless attack would run counter to our interests. I can confirm without a doubt that none of today's mission logs involve the giant territories. The City Lord of Eternal Night City folded his hands before his face and stared coldly at him. Several seconds passed before he spoke slowly. The giant chieftain, Gorgon. He is dead. Shock washed over Director Sunday elsewhere. The giant boss Gorgon rose abruptly from his throne. A roar shook the entire sky. Human, how dare you trespass upon giant lands? Remove yourself from my sight within 3 seconds. If you refuse, we will treat this as a breach of the peace treaty by Eternal Night City. War between the giants and Eternal Night City will follow. Can you bear that consequence? Giant Chieftain Gorgon seethed with rage. Yet the shadow of death lingered constantly in his heart. His gaze drifted repeatedly toward the weapon in Xia Li's grasp. It looked like nothing more than an ordinary branch, yet it exuded terrifying pressure. What exactly was this thing? At the same time, more than 30 giants within the territory stood upright. Heavy thuds echoed one after another. Oppressive aura closed in on Xia Lu from every direction. Sorry, there will be no giant race from this day onward, meaning there will be no faction to wage war against Eternal Night City. Xia Lu tilted his head slightly and casually lifted the skyward spear. The pale white wooden shaft felt rough and warm, with a tender leaf trembling gently at the spear tip. He hurled it toward Gorgon. Hum! A faint hum resonated. After leaving Xia Li's hand, the skyward spear streaked straight for giant chieftain Gorgon. It moved slowly, almost like an ordinary twig drifting through the air. Seeing this, the 30-odd ordinary giants broke into rumbling laughter. This tiny branch was not even as long as one of their fingers. It would not even pierce their skin if it struck. Did he expect to harm them with it? I could use that as a toothpick. Human, I expect you to stand just as rigid 30 seconds from now. The giants jeered loudly. Tension across the territory eased noticeably. But giant chieftain Gorgon sensed mortal peril. The instant the spear left Xia Li's grasp, he reacted. He rolled left, attempting to evade the skyward spear's trajectory. He soon discovered that no matter where he fled, the spear remained locked onto him. The next moment, he ripped a 5-meter boulder from the ground and hurled it at the skyward spear. The rock collided midair and was pierced soundlessly. The spear's speed and course did not shift in the slightest. Nothing seemed capable of stopping it. The giants who had been laughing fell silent, confused. What in the world? Giant Chieftain Gorgon unleashed a wild roar and held his totem pole horizontally before his chest. He activated the stone skin skill, boosting his defense more than threefold. Still, the skyward spear traced a parabolic arc and drove home. It pierced through the totem pole and stone skin before bursting out from his back, releasing a cloud of dark red blood mist. Giant Chieftain Gorgon stared at the fist-sized hole torn through his chest. His lips twitched, then his knees crashed against the ground. His massive body toppled slowly, slamming heavily before the throne. The other giants stared blankly at the scene, utterly dumbfounded. Their chieftain had fallen just like that? Giant Chieftain Gorgon's colossal frame crashed before the throne. Shattered stone and dust billowed across the royal courtyard. A fist-sized hole pierced his chest. His eyes remained wide open, filled with unrelenting disbelief. He died with grievances unavenged. Xiaolu stretched out a hand. The skyward spear flew back into his grasp out of thin air. Congratulations. You have slain giant chieftain Gorgon LV.62, boss, using the skyward spear. Instant death check. Successful. Experience gained. 1,800,000. Remaining daily uses for the skyward spear, 2 of 3. You have advanced to LV.37. All attributes plus 5. You have advanced to LV.38. All attributes plus 5. The rewards for slaying a boss were incredibly generous. He leveled up twice in one go. Xiaolu nodded in satisfaction. Meanwhile, the remaining ordinary giants stood frozen. They watched their chieftain collapse without putting up meaningful resistance. How could this be possible? Some giants refused to accept reality and poked their fallen leader with a finger. The giant's body sagged further at the touch. 2 more uses left. A single strike to eliminate an enemy. This felt fantastic. Shortly afterward, a golden pillar of light erupted upward from Gorgon's corpse. Inside stood a heavy armor set with broad shoulder pauldrons resembling rocky cliffs. Its most striking feature lay along the spine, a metallic vertebral column forged from intricate mechanical components. It stretched from the nape of the neck all the way to the coccyx. Each vertebral joint adjusted automatically, releasing faint mechanical hums. When the armor unfolded completely, the full mechanical spinal structure rested along its rear. Name: Pillar of Heaven. Type: Armor, Heavy Plate. Required level: LV.55. Eligible classes: Warrior, Knight, Guardian, and others. Grade: Legendary Supreme. Defense: 180,000 320,000. Attribute bonuses: Vitality plus 3,300, Strength plus 1,800. Trait: Spine of the Earth. The armor's mechanical spine merges with the wearer's backbone. Upon taking damage, absolute defense activates. All incoming damage is channeled deep underground through the mechanical spine, leaving the wearer unharmed. Each time absolute defense triggers, the mechanical spine absorbs terrestrial energy to stack Earth's might. Each stack raises defense by 5 and maximum health by 3. A maximum of 20 stacks can be accumulated. Stacks decay at a rate of 1 stack every 30 seconds once combat ends. Trait: Ruler of the Land. The wearer may expend stacks of Earth's might to manipulate terrain within an 80-meter radius. Spend 2 stacks to raise a rock wall up to 20 meters tall and 15 meters wide at a designated position, lasting 30 seconds. Spend 3 stacks to tear open a fissure 30 meters long and 15 meters deep. Enemies trapped within suffer a 70 movement speed reduction. They receive physical damage equal to 200 of the wearer's strength every second. The fissure lasts 20 seconds. Spend 5 stacks to summon 3 rock walls simultaneously. Create 2 fissures, or double the duration of existing rock walls and fissures. Enemies blocked by rock walls or trapped within fissures cannot use mobility skills to escape. Terrain manipulation has no cooldown, though the same coordinate cannot be altered again within 10 seconds. Trait: Uphold Heaven. May only be activated when Earth's might is fully stacked. The mechanical spine discharges all stored terrestrial energy at once, placing the wearer in the Uphold Heaven state. Body size increases by 80, strength and vitality double, and all attacks deal bonus earth damage equal to 500 strength for 40 seconds. While active, every step the wearer takes automatically unleashes a free war stomp, dealing physical damage equal to 300 strength to all foes within 30 meters. It inflicts a 2-second stun that ignores all immunity effects. During the state, the wearer is immune to all crowd control and displacement effects. Standing on solid ground restores 5 maximum health every second. When the state expires, all Earth's might stacks reset. The mechanical spine must recharge. Description: This armor was forged using the intact spinal column of Urger the Upholder, the ancestral progenitor of the giants, combined with core alloy from deep within the earth. Urger was the first chieftain of giant legend. During the War of the Gods, he used his spine to prop up the firmament shattered by heavenly fire. This allowed the giant race to survive and multiply upon the land. Upon his death, his tribesmen preserved his spine intact. They tempered it within the earth's core for 1,000 years until it transformed into this armor. So long as the spine stands, the land shall not crumble. Pillar of Heaven. Xiaolu frowned at the armor's name, feeling somewhat peculiar. The armor itself was enormous. However, he could not equip it until LV.55. He was currently LV.38. Perhaps eliminating all giants here would push him high enough. He was uncertain, but he would slay them all first. Xiaolu stowed the Pillar of Heaven within the Nibelungen vault. The Scarlet Eternity cloak rippled behind him, and the Dragon Emperor greatsword materialized in both hands. The faint roar of a black dragon echoed along its blade. Within the territory, the giants finally shook off the shock of their chieftain's death and roared with rage. The human killed our chieftain. Make him pay. How dare this insignificant human commit such an act? Avenge our leader. Seeing this, Xiaolu took a single step forward. His scarlet eternity cloak billowed wide behind him. He lowered his stance. He pushed off from a giant rock, and countless blood bats screeched forth to rush the giants. Hand over all the treasures. Scarlet eternity unfurled behind Xiaolu. The stench of blood filled the royal courtyard instantly. He transformed into swarms of bats and charged straight toward the giants. Human, your crimes are unforgivable. Death to you. I will crush you to dust. The giants roared in fury, balling their fists, eager to crush the human to pieces. Yet they froze the very next instant. Xiaolu hovered above their heads and lifted the Dragon Emperor greatsword skyward. The black blade pointed toward the heavens. Dragon patterns etched across the sword ignited one by one. An ancient, vast, majestic dragon roar boomed forth. Before the terrified giants, a colossal phantom black dragon king blotted out the light overhead. Its membranous wings spread wide to cover the sky. The massive dragon head lowered, vertical pupils sweeping coldly over the giant horde below. Terrifying dragon pressure crashed down like 10,000 tons of mountain rock. The giants who had been screaming for revenge stiffened completely. Their burning anger crumbled before primal terror. This was the innate, bloodline fear of ancient dragons embedded deep within giant heritage. Their hands gripping weapons trembled violently, and their legs rooted to the ground as if weighed down by lead. A dragon. The Black Dragon King. The ancient nightmare that nearly erased our race. Why has it appeared here? Whispers of panic spread. You were roaring fiercely a moment ago, weren't you? Xiaolu chuckled and tapped his foot against the ground. His figure streaked forward, leaving afterimages. The Dragon Emperor greatsword sliced horizontally, carrying the Black Dragon King's overwhelming power. A black crescent sword arc swept across the necks of the front-rank giants. The Black Dragon King phantom roared and surged forward alongside the slash. Squelch, several enormous heads soared upward, geysers of warm blood spraying meters high. The bodies toppled rigidly, shaking the ground as they fell. Their health bars emptied instantly. Congratulations. You have slain Giant Warrior LV.48. Experience gained, 120,000. Congratulations. You have slain Giant Warrior LV.49. Experience gained, 128,000. Congratulations. You have slain Giant Royal Guard LV.52. Experience gained, 165,000. System alerts flooded his mind. His experience bar climbed visibly with every kill. Xiaolu weaved through the giant crowd, his scarlet eternity cloak swirling. Countless blood bats circled around him, feeding on spilled blood to replenish their master. A LV.53 giant lieutenant struggled against the dragon pressure and swung a giant hammer toward Xiaoli's head. The hammer carried dense earth battle aura, yet Xiaolu dodged sideways. At the same time, he drove his sword into the giant's chest. Dragon energy surged through the blade, instantly destroying the lieutenant's internal organs. A brilliant golden beam shot upward from the giant lieutenant's torso. A battle hammer etched with rocky cracks hovered amid the blood mist. Name: Mountain Shatter Warhammer. Type: Weapon Two-handed hammer. Required level: LV.55. Grade: Legendary Supreme. Attack power: 110,000 225,000. Attribute bonuses: Strength plus 3,000. Vitality plus 1,500. Trait: Mountain Shatter. All basic attacks guarantee a Mountain Shatter strike, dealing bonus physical damage equal to 500 strength. It inflicts a 5-second stun. Damage dealt to buildings and fortifications increases by 200. Trait: Gravity Domain. When activated, gravity doubles for all enemies within a 20-meter radius. Their movement and attack speed drop by 50. Last 15 seconds. Cooldown: 30 seconds. Description: Exclusive armament of giant lieutenants, forged from mountain core, ore, and meteorite iron. A single blow can shatter half a mountain. Xiaolu casually stored the warhammer inside the Nibelungen vault and turned his gaze toward the remaining giants. The Black Dragon King Phantom sensed his killing intent and let loose another valley-shaking roar. A stream of black dragon breath spewed from its jaws. Rock melted into magma wherever the dragon flame touched. More than a dozen giants who failed to dodge were engulfed instantly. They did not even have time to scream before burning to ash, leaving clusters of golden light rising from the cinders. Congratulations. You have slain ordinary giant times 10 LV.46. Experience gained, 1,300,000. Congratulations. You have slain giant elite times 2 LV.51. Experience gained, 380,000. You have advanced to LV.39. All attributes plus 5. You have advanced to LV.40. All attributes plus 5. You have advanced to LV.41. All attributes plus 5. 3 consecutive level ups boosted Xia Li's aura. He caught floating pieces of equipment and examined their properties. Among them was the Earth Pulse Ritual Robes, Supreme Legendary Grade, boosting Earth spell power by 45 and summoning strength by 30. It automatically generates an Earth shield while worn. The Heart of the Earth Pendant, also Supreme Grade, passively raises the wearer's health regeneration rate by 20 and Earth resistance by 40. In critical moments, it summons the Heart of the Earth to fully mend all injuries. There was also the Rock Core Greaves, dropped by Giant Royal Guards. Supreme Legendary Quality. Stomping the ground automatically triggers rock spikes to assault foes. The wearer moves unimpeded across all terrain and is immune to slows and terrain-based restrictions. When the dragon flame faded, not a single giant remained standing within the royal courtyard. Broken corpses and congealed blood covered the ground. Dozens of golden lights hovered above the remains like a forest of gold. From ordinary giant warriors and elite royal guards to shamans and lieutenant commanders, none survived. Xia sheathed his sword. The black dragon king phantom slowly dissipated behind him. Swarms of blood bats flocked back into his cloak. Having feasted on blood, the cloak's scarlet hue grew deeper and richer. At that moment, the roar of metal engines drew closer. Tracks crunched across rocky slopes. Xia Lu tucked away the last wisp of golden light inside the Nibelungen vault and twisted to look behind him. 3 dust-covered heavy armored vehicles halted at the outer boundary of giant territory. The black iron insignia of Eternal Night City stood out vividly against the blood light. A hydraulic hiss echoed as vehicle hatches opened. Director Sun, fully armed, leaped down from the vehicle. He opened his mouth to shout, only to witness the scene before him. His words died in his throat. What in the world happened? The ground was carpeted with giant corpses as tall as hills. The colossal form of Gorgon, chieftain of the giants, lay stretched out before the throne. A hideous piercing wound gashed his chest. Standing amid the carnage was Xia Lu, his clothing unblemished by blood, utterly calm and composed. Captain Sun's mind reeled. He strode forward in quick strides, gesturing at the piles of corpses, his voice trembling. You wiped out the entire giant clan? He paused, then roared in exasperation. The giants are Eternal Night City's allies. Why would you slaughter our allies? Who gave you the authority to do this? The giants are Eternal Night City's allies. Why would you slaughter our allies? Who gave you the authority to do this? Captain Sun marched straight up to Xia Lu, his face contorted as he demanded answers. The giant clan was a pivotal piece in his plans. Now they were all dead? What would become of his test subjects? Damn it! He burned with the urge to strangle the man before him. Yet the knowledge that this single person had defeated the entire giant clan filled him with deep wariness. Faced with Captain Sun's barrage of questions, Xia Lu did not even lift his eyes. He waved a hand casually. Ripples spread through the air. The next instant, a sleek, pitch-black Maybach S-Class emerged from a swirling black portal. Its matte paint glinted with a frigid metallic sheen beneath the blood-red sky. The iconic vertical slat grille and 3-pointed star emblem exuded supreme elegance. It looked wildly out of place amid the mountain of corpses and blood-soaked wasteland, as if it had been transported here from an entirely different civilization. The Maybach S pulled slowly to a stop beside Xia Lu, like a loyal hound awaiting its master. Captain Sun's pupils shrank sharply as he stared at the luxurious sedan. He muttered to himself. The rainy night, the viaduct, the Maybach. He snapped his head towards Xia Lu. All his rage faded, replaced by stunned realization. It's you. The student who cleared the rainy night viaduct instance in Linhai City. Xia Lu shot him a glance and pulled open the driver's door. He climbed inside. The window rolled down, and he leaned out to speak. I am not a formal soldier. I hold no official rank. I answer to no one's rules. With that, he settled into the driver's seat. The door clicked shut automatically. The engine roared to life. The black sedan executed a perfect drifting turn on the spot. It surged toward Eternal Night City at high speed. All that remained were billowing clouds of dust, and Captain Sun and his men, frozen where they stood. The adjutant hurried to Captain Sun's side, gazing toward the direction the Maybach had vanished. His brows drawn tight as he spoke gravely. Sir, This Xiao Lu is far from ordinary. He single-handedly annihilated the entire giant clan. His strength is terrifying. Very few people across all of Eternal Night City are capable of such a feat. Captain Sun slowly looked away, nodding with a heavy expression. Anyone capable of this must have backing from a powerful hidden force. Lin Zhenghong, mayor of Linhai City, tasked me with dealing with this young man. Humph. None of them have honest intentions. They cannot handle him themselves, so they dumped this troublesome problem onto me. Very well. We shall wait and see who has the last laugh. He paused, sweeping his gaze over the countless giant corpses, and said in a low voice, "Avoid open conflict with him for now. We will observe first. I will report the annihilation of the giant clan to the Lord of Eternal Night City, and await the higher-ups' ruling. Until we uncover his true background, we must not move against him." The adjutant nodded in acknowledgement. Elsewhere, after Lu Shiyu and her group repelled the troll ambush, they continued speeding toward the outpost. None of the group was in the mood for banter now. This escort mission had filled them with a foreboding sense of dread. Up ahead, weathered giant yellow rock formations stretched as far as the eye could see. They loomed across the wasteland like crouching behemoths. A convoy of 3 vehicles rumbled over broken stone, navigating cautiously through rock fissures. 2 escort vehicles led the way, flanking a heavy armored truck. Its cargo hold was sealed with thick steel plates, only narrow observation slits cut into the walls. The insignia of Eternal Night City's supply bureau marked its hull. Lu Shiyu gripped the steering wheel tightly. Through the windshield, she watched more massive silhouettes gathering behind the rocky slopes. Their rough ash-gray skin glistened under the dim yellow sky, trolls roaming the western borderlands. Damn it, why are there more and more trolls? She activated her communicator, her low voice edged with tension, transmitting to the escort vehicles ahead and behind. Team Leader Lu, something is wrong. A crew member in the right escort vehicle sounded anxious and alarmed. We seem to be heading deeper into troll territory. The delivery outpost is supposed to be straight ahead. But look, Lu Shiyu followed his gaze. Where the stone watchtower of Eternal Night City's outpost should have stood, swarms of trolls now gathered. Huge holes had been smashed into the tower walls. Eternal Night City's banners lay trampled in the mud, replaced by crude totems creaking in the wind. The outpost had been seized by the trolls. Turn back. Prepare to break through. Before Lu Shiyu could finish speaking, a heavy thud echoed from the rear. Something massive crashed hard against the inner wall of the armored truck's cargo hold. The entire vehicle shattered violently. What was that? Panic erupted across the communication channel as the team members cried out in shock. Lu Shiyu frowned, about to turn and check, when 2 more deafening bangs followed, louder and fiercer than the first. A massive footprint outline slowly bulged outward on the thick steel rear wall of the cargo hold. Twisted metal screeched shrilly. With every centimeter the indentation deepened, a low, inhuman roar rumbled from inside the hold. Even through the steel plating, the ferocious aura within was palpable. No, Lu Shiyu's face paled. She slammed on the brakes. The armored truck screeched to a halt. Clutching her trident of Poseidon, she twisted around to stare at the warping rear cargo hold, her heart sinking to her stomach. The cargo they were escorting, the monster that was meant to be contained by powerful anesthesia, had woken up. The next instant, boom, an ear-splitting explosion ripped through the air. The heavy alloy rear door was sent flying like scrap metal, tumbling more than a dozen meters away. A massive gray-green foot slammed onto the ground with a dull thud. A creature as large as a fully grown troll, its body corded with bulging muscle, stepped slowly out of the hold, hunched low. Its muscles rose like chiseled stone slabs, its arms as thick as a grown person's torso. Veins snaked beneath its skin like coiled serpents. It looked like a savage green-skinned beast broken free from a laboratory. Scarlet eyes burned with unbridled rage. 2 yellowed fangs jutted from its jaws, and every breath sent clouds of foul mist billowing outward. It rotated its neck, its joints popping sharply. It still seemed groggy from the anesthetic, or simply enraged after long captivity. The monster let out an irritable roar, spun around, and hurled a fist the size of a cooking pot toward the side wall of the armored truck amid a whistling gust of wind. Crash! The alloy steel plate, dozens of centimeters thick, buckled and caved in as if it were paper. The entire heavy armored truck slid 2 meters sideways from the impact. Its frame warped, and every window shattered.